hell is that? Oh, that's what that is. We're toothpaste. Okay. I hope you guys can hear me. Let's see. Okay. I hope you guys can hear me. Let's see. It looks. Is it lagging? No, it looks good. I hope it's good. Yeesh. Now the video that I'm pulling up is a bit laggy. I don't know if that's on my end or. It's probably on my end. I have trash internet. So I want to. Hold on. Let me close out of these tabs that give away what school I go to. I've mentioned in a few places the university that too, but just for the sake of being more under the radar. So I have a few tabs open that basically give out the logo of my universities. What's fun is that I've already disclosed the university that I go to. And one of you guys messaged me basically saying that you go to the same university. So that was, if there's one good thing that came out of me doxing myself, it was that. So that's cool. University is entirely online at the moment, so it doesn't even matter. So it's not like we could even meet up and have a beer or something like that. So that is totally screwed. Oof. A Modelo and a Coors Light together at the same time probably tastes like shit. So I won't be drinking that. So the idea is I was hoping to probably review a couple of videos here today. Once I get an audience. I'm looking at. Yes, I'm just looking at a few videos that I could potentially watch. Oh, Coleman Hughes came out actually with. So Coleman Hughes came out and said he's voting for Biden. We could probably watch that actually. Yeah, I'm just waiting for a few more people to come in. But yeah, Coleman Hughes came out with a video why I'm voting for Biden, and it got so many dislikes. So it has 2.1 likes, 1,000 dislikes. Let's see what it says. But he didn't respond like a yeah, so the criticisms that he got seems to boil down Biden is going to be pretty sympathetic towards the woke. So that's interesting. We could review that video. It's a quick 10-minute video. It's not too bad. That would be an extremely interesting watch. And let's see. I could share my screen, right? Yeah, I'll share my screen in a bit because this is. Let me just make sure I don't have anything horrifying. Oof, that shows the logo of my university. Let's get that out. Just making sure I don't have any incriminating tabs that you people can use against me. No, they're just like, I mean, I have open for the university that I go to, but it doesn't tell you where I go. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's fine. You guys won't be able to dox me. You guys wouldn't do that. I have the best fans in the world. I have the weirdest fans in the world, actually. You guys leave some of the most interesting comments. I should probably do that too, actually. Review some of the comments that you people leave me because it's really interesting. Some of the comments. Oh, hey, I got a subscriber. That's awesome. Thanks. So I'm actually going to share my screen and in a bit and show you the type of comments that I'm telling you, man. Some of these comments I honestly don't understand. Actually, that's a good video. Review some of the comments that I get. That's actually a good one. I'm gonna do that. Hey, Nick Kano. Nick Kano's in the chat. How you doing, Nick? Nick was a guest on Thinking Out Loud. Fun fact. He's fantastic. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. How you doing, Nick? Everything's good. You excited for what is it? 3 days from now, in which the United States gets to elect a new president? 3 days, 4 days, 5 days from now, in which we get to determine. Crazy neighbors put up another sign, dude. You gotta. Okay, I'm not even memeing at this point. You really need to document everything that is going on with your neighbor, because your neighbor, without a doubt, is one of the most fascinating people I've ever come across. It's a world wonder. Hold on, let me tweet out this live stream. Usually this live stream is actually pretty poppin'. I doubt it's going to be poppin' tonight because it's pretty late in North America. Live streaming, come shoot the shit with me while I review a few videos. Okay. Now, Sam Harris actually tweeted out something pretty interesting. So Sam Harris is getting drunk right now for sure, because he tweeted out Negroni or Bouvillardière. I don't know how to pronounce this word because I'm not a heavy alcohol drinker. I just drink beer. But he's clearly getting plastered tonight. So that's exciting. Not much. Mainly just I'm back at school, so I've been focusing on that mainly. So what I do is I study between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. on the weekdays, and on Saturday, I guess, actually. So that's the time allotted I have to study, and then from 6 p.m. and onward, I do whatever I can. And on Sundays, much like the good Lord intended, I rest. Today is Friday. It's already 9:30 p.m. for me, so I'm pretty good. Oh, it was fantastic, actually. Yes. Sam Harris did a podcast with Andrew Sullivan. It came out today or yesterday. I was listening to it on my way to Target, and I had to drive. I had to do a 2-hour drive today. A very annoying 2-hour drive today. So I listened to it. It's fantastic. What was that they did the same thing before the Hillary and Trump election. And so during that podcast that they did, they were shitting on Trump as well. They were shitting on Clinton too, but they were making the argument that Clinton was still the lesser of two evils. And so they're doing the same thing again. And I'm thinking of, don't, whatever you did in the previous podcast, don't repeat that, because we don't want history to repeat itself this time. We've had enough. I criticize the woke a lot on this channel, so I'm sure some people would be surprised that I'm not a Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm going to share my screen, and I want to review a few videos. Let's see. Okay. Share screen. Hopefully I don't have anything incriminating on here. If I do, yikes. We're all... Whoops, I had to stream. There we go. So you see this? This is my screen. Look how many tabs I have open. Okay. So anyways, let's watch this. Can you guys hear this? Let's watch this. Can you guys hear this? You can't hear it. How do I? The audio is inaudible, Vince. You're gonna get the Sony Alpha A6 for your camera. How much is that? I want to go on Amazon and check that out. I've never heard of that. Okay. How to make sure the audio comes out. All right, hold on. Let me remove this and see if I can, because I want you guys to hear what I am hearing. As well as check that out. I'm assuming this is like a $4,000 camera, $4,000 camera. Sony Alpha 60 A6500. Oh, okay, yeah. Probably never, Candler. So don't be excited for that. All right, I want to share my screen, but I want you guys to hear what I'm listening to as well. So okay, add a stream. Remove full layout, full screen. Camera, mic, audio, echo, and stereo audio. I don't know what any of this means. Shift videos. But it looks so good. Yeah, I'm sure it does. But considering the fact that I have currently 9 viewers, I don't think spending $2,000, as much as I love every single one 9 of you, I can't imagine spending that much money. What if I do this? How do I do this? I wish, open your settings again. Okay. So here's my settings, audio. Oh, wait, would it be the speaker? I'm a complete dinosaur when it comes to this sort of stuff. So this is what you guys hear, and this is what I hear. Is there a way in which let's see. General. Nothing's on the general. Armin Navabi does this all the time. What does he do? Whoops. So let's see. Let's see if I change the speakers. I mean, there's no way the speakers will have anything to do with this. Go to general. Okay, there's general. General, it just there's only 3 options there. Broadcast quality, shift videos, up for comments, banners, audio avatars. It's the only thing that comes up. So it's got to be, and it's definitely not camera. Oh, there I am. It's definitely not camera. It's got to be one of the things. So let's do communications. No, it's definitely not that one. Okay. Hello. That's definitely not that one. Okay. Hello. All right, it sounds the same, right? All right, it sounds the same, right? Okay. What if I play this? All right, it sounds the same thing. Okay. What if I play this? Nope. Oh gosh darn it. Nope. Oh. All right. Well, this is a bust, it seems, because. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, sorry about the echo. That's because I have 2 monitors here. One is informing me how I sound like. So I apologize for that one. Okay. StreamYard. How to stream. This is a 34-minute explaining to me how to do this. My dog is snoring. All right. 2 times speed. I will be right back. 1 second. Yeah, what's up? So why does everyone ask this? Every single person on the planet asks me this. If you don't mind me asking, what is your ethnicity? You look Asian. Everyone thinks I'm Asian. I'm not Asian. So, I mean, I was born in the United States, but my parents are Mexican, so that's my. But everyone thinks I'm Asian, which is funny. You got to check this box. It's on the shirt. What box? What are you talking about? You got this. Yeah, I've absorbed white supremacy. I was. I'm adorable when vulnerable. I'm never vulnerable. I'm always alpha male. Don't. I'm not pretend that I'm some soy boy. Absolutely not. I'm a hardcore Paul Joseph Watson fan. Alpha male. Stefan Molyneux. Check your volume on the Ori YouTube video. Ori YouTube video? What are you talking about? Original YouTube video? Can you hear me? Well, let me see. Original YouTube video? Yeah, I can hear myself loud and clear. Hey, Gabe, how you doing? I know who you are. Got the twins in here. That's fantastic. So, I don't know what. It's on the share your screen tab. You got to check this box. You act like I know what you mean when you say this box. What box? Okay, screen sharing is easiest with 2 monitors. Screen sharing works best on computer. Some screens let you share audio. Look for the share audio checkbox on the next window. Oh my God, you're kidding me. You're right. I not see that. Okay. Got it. There we go. So this is better, right? Look at this. This is fantastic. Oh my God. I cannot believe it took me that long. All right. Candler, you are the absolute best. You are the best. I bet the Three Stooges would be pissed if they found out. Yeah, okay. I'm sure they would. I haven't seen the Three Stooges. Okay. Let me change my wallpaper though. Look at that. That looks so much better. Okay. Comments. These are your comments. Okay. So is this good? It's good, right? I was hoping there'd be one in which I can just pop up. Can I enlarge this? Full screen layout. Nice work, Candler. Dude, Candler is the best. Candler is legit. Solo layout. Whoa. Okay. This is fine. You guys are fine with this.
Started doing your first live streams or your experience.
So I can exit out of this. Oh, so let's see if you heard that. This is fine. You guys are fine with this. So I can exit out of this. Oh, so let's see if you heard that. All right. So let's see. So this is Coleman Hughes. Hey, Candler is legitimately actually like smart. I know him in real life. He's legitimately one of the smartest people I've ever met. So everyone give props to Candler. So let's see if can you guys hear that? You guys can hear that well? Okay. So let's see. I haven't seen this yet.
Welcome to a special edition of Conversations with Coleman. I've heard from some people in my audience who are confused by my support for Joe Biden. How come I'm not voting for the candidate that's not afraid to stand up to the woke left, to cancel culture, critical race theory, to all the things that I spend so much time worrying about on this show? How could I possibly prefer Biden when he's so a Trojan horse for the left? When he's obviously too weak to stand up to the onslaught of social justice that will come at him?
Okay, so I don't think he's a Trojan horse. Oh, neither does Coleman Hughes. Let's not forget that. But I don't think that Joe Biden is anywhere near as woke as some people claim him to be. I think Joe Biden is actually the best case scenario of what we can get from the Democratic establishment. If we had someone like Elizabeth Warren, Sanders, or Kamala Harris, which is the VP and most likely will be the president, sure, that's probably the strongest argument you can come up with. But generally speaking, Joe Biden himself is he doesn't care about any of this stuff. He doesn't care about critical race theory. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. He's the best case scenario that we have. And even then, even if that were not the case, even if Joe Biden woke, I still think he'd be the best way to go, and I'll explain why in a bit.
Him from the left wing of his party. These are all valid questions, so I want to take some time to answer them here. Now, part of me worries it's hopeless to try to change minds at this point. After 4 years, most people have already decided who they support. But another part of me knows that there are people out there, some of them in my audience, that remain open-minded to the very end. And I'm guessing that my audience might even over-index on these kinds of people. So I think it's worth my time to give you a flavor of how I'm thinking about the choice between Trump and Biden. So to start, a lot of the case for Trump isn't really a case for Trump, so much as it is a case against the biased mainstream media.
Isn't it amazing? He sounds like Sam Harris. He sounds so much like Sam Harris. It's amazing. I honestly think that he's actually trying to copy the way that Sam Harris speaks, because it's not a matter of both of them being slow talkers. It's the rhythm in which they speak. They speak in the same rhythm. So and I know that he loves Sam Harris. Sam Harris is one of his heroes. So I'm assuming he's got to be copying Sam Harris to some extent.
And the cultural left for their hypocrisy and their political bias and their moral grandstanding. And I get it. I could give many examples, but I'll just give a few. Right-wing anti-lockdown protests were characterized basically as mass murder because of the risk of spreading COVID, while much larger Black Lives Matter protests were characterized as so important, and even by big-name doctors and health professionals.
Yes, that is 100% true, and it was one of the most annoying things I've ever seen.
Who perfectly understood the risk of COVID and warned against it in the case of right-wing protests. And you're racist scum if you even wonder aloud whether the BLM protests are spreading COVID. So that's an example of hypocrisy. As for political bias, where to begin? The Hunter Biden story, Ukraine and China, selling his political influence. The New York Times would be tripping over itself to cover the story if it were about Don Jr. and his father. The emails, which as of Friday, October 23rd, no one in the Biden campaign has denied the accuracy of. This is exactly the kind of evidence that would have been adduced to prove that Trump was a Russian asset. And that story is another example. Right? The heavy breathing about Russian for years, only to find nothing of true substance. When skeptics like Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi were pointing out how thin this story was from the beginning, they were totally right. This is political bias. The fact that people still think Trump didn't condemn white supremacy.
People really love bringing when it comes to these sorts of narratives, whether we're talking about Rachel Maddow constantly bringing up the whole potential Russia collusion with Trump. It's actually amazing. It's impressive.
In his Charlottesville speech, when he did it by name 15 or 30 seconds after the famous both sides comment. And he's done it at least 10 other times in his presidency. That's pure confirmation bias and political tribalism. The fact that Trump's criminal justice policy has been fairly close to what was advocated in the new Jim Crow, but that doesn't put a dent in the accusation of racism and law and order dog whistling that's made against him. Outside of Fox News, which has a naked pro-Trump bias, the mainstream media has been totally unfair to Trump. They've been out to get him since the beginning.
Yeah, that's mostly true. So Fox News, when Trump was first running, or not first running, but for the first couple of years of the Trump presidency, him and Fox News were pretty much in bed. And then he fell out of love with Fox News, because then you started having Fox News commentators criticizing Trump. And then Donald Trump went in bed with OAN. What is it? One American Network? One American News Network. It's funny because you get John Oliver as the first person there. But yeah, that's Fox News isn't a huge fan of Donald Trump. They still are, but nowhere near as much as they were at first.
And they become more stupid as a result. And I think a lot of people can see that. The 1619 Project, stealth editing its central claim that 1619 should be viewed as the true founding of the country. And Nicole Hannah-Jones, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, bald-faced lying about it, right? From the paper that sees...
Yeah, that's so annoying. So when the 1619 Project first came in, they explained that this was basically a redefinition of the founding of the United States, in which they made the claim that the United States was legitimately founded in 1916. 1916. 1619. Sorry, my dyslexia is showing. And then they recanted that, and they stealth edited the article. Let's see if we can find it now. So 1619, Nicole Hannah-Jones article. New York Times. It's like the most amazing thing ever, and they refuse to admit it. Well, this isn't it, but it wasn't even the New York. Was it? I thought it was the New York Times. I forget what it was. Whatever it was, but they stealth edited it, and it was amazing. They're out to get him because he's such a colossal buffoon. I don't think it's such a bad thing as long as you remain accurate. That they're biased against him. It's really difficult. That's because accuracy and truth is white supremacist construction. Yeah, it is. And they'll say that, actually. Like the craziest crazies of critical theory will say that the concept of evidence, the concept of determining who is right based on consistency is itself a white supremacist model based on logic that is constructed. That's what they say. Most people don't believe that. Most woke people won't agree with that, obviously. But yeah, the craziest of the crazies that you'll find in the critical method domain will legitimately believe that. But the Nicole Hannah-Jones article is amazing. So TLDR, they tried to make the claim that 1619 was when the United States was founded, because that's when the slave ships arrived in the United States, as opposed to 1776. And their original claim was that, yes, they were saying that this was when the United States was founded, that they were trying to change the narrative, and then they stealth edited it. They stealth edited it in order to say, oh, we're not actually saying that this was when the United States was actually founded. Rather, what we're saying is that this gives people a new perspective, which is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. But that was not what they were saying originally, and I wouldn't care. They were just honest about it.
Sees itself as the gold standard of journalistic integrity. Amazon rejecting Shelby Steele's documentary about Ferguson and Michael Brown because it comes to the wrong conclusions. I could obviously go on forever, but I'll stop there. What I'm getting at is old rot of wokeness, the Orwellian and authoritarian instinct of this new ideology that's very fast on its way to dominating the culture if it doesn't already. This is one of the great problems of our time, and it's one that I think I'm pretty clear-headed about. So the question is this: why don't I support Trump? Well, there are two reasons. The first is that the executive doesn't have power over the ideas that dominate the culture. We're talking about a war of ideas here. A war that's taking place independent of anything Trump says or does. Yes, Trump can ban critical race theory brainwashing for employees. He can change Title IX policies. But if those are the only examples you can come up with, then you've just admitted that 99% of what matters in schools, in private workplaces, in state and local government, and so forth, Trump has no influence over.
And I don't think he should have any influence over it at all. Because this shouldn't be a legislative issue. This should be a cultural issue. And so the remedy to the problem that we see with the woke culture, we shouldn't be able to legislate whether we're talking about reducing federal funding from universities that don't advocate for free speech and don't protect it. What we should be doing rather is changing the culture, and Donald Trump is doing the exact opposite of that.
If the executive has a notable influence over the spread of wokeness, then why has wokeness gained so much ground over the past 4 years? Why didn't he influence to stop it, or at least slow it down? Well, because he couldn't, even if he tried. Even if he were a much more competent president than he is. That's just not how cultural causation works. It doesn't just flow from the top down. And by the same token, he couldn't move the needle on the spread of woke ideas if he wanted to. It's a common fallacy to attribute anything that happens with the economy to the president, for example. I would say however much power the president has over the economy, and it's not much, he has even less power over the culture.
Is that true? I don't know much about how the economy works to fact check that. How much power over the economy does the president have? Presidents have less power over according to the New York Times than you might think. So I'm outing myself as someone who doesn't know much about how the economy works. Oh, god damn it. They're getting mad at me because I have ad blocker, are they? I'll read it later.
Whatever small influence Trump does have over the spread of wokeness, I'm not convinced that it's in the direction of stopping it, rather than fanning the flames, if you look at the net result of his utterances. I know people who have become more woke because of Trump's style of speaking. People who have been...
Yep, 100%. Because Donald Trump is pretty much the caricature that the woke people will throw at you in order to demonstrate that the United States is still an incredibly sexist and racist, misogynistic society, then people will double down on their claims. That's 100% true. And so even though Trump is against those things, excuse me, Christ, even though Donald Trump is against those things, because he is the perfect caricature of the woke left, of Wokistani people, then people are going to double down on their claims that the United States is as bad as they claim it is. So Trump has made things worse for us, not better.
radicalized by Trump's infamous statements on immigrants, for example. And Trump supporters should have no trouble agreeing with me on this point. The very notion of Trump derangement syndrome, which I agree can be
The president only has 4 numerator powers, I think. Yeah, sure. But the is when we're talking about the trickle down effect, or whether we're talking about sort of the domino effect, I think is a better way to describe it. How much is that? How much could you link that back towards the president? That's the answer to the question. I don't know, and it's very difficult to determine 100%.
a real thing. Some people are pushed further to the left by Trump's style of speaking than they would be by a more conventional conservative politician with the same policies. No one spoke of McCain derangement or Romney derangement.
Yeah, that, and then the quote annoyingly changes as well. So whereas at one point it was cool to be anti-SJW, and then at another point it's cool to be anti-SJW. So it's like the cultural zeitgeist never stays consistent. And Milo Yiannopoulos was debating Destiny, in which he said something along the lines of, so this was what was interesting. So Milo Yiannopoulos recently, I think, I forget when it was this year actually, sorry. Milo Yiannopoulos basically said that what needs to come back, what needs to be like that the Christian right needs to have a resurgence. And he got booed when he said this on stage. And he said, "Oh, you guys are stuck in 2016." Yeah, that's well, whether or not an argument is correct or incorrect is not contingent on what year it is being said. It is contingent on the strength of the arguments, whether or not they make sense, whether they're syllogistically valid, I guess. But because people tend to have this zeitgeist view of what is cool and what is not cool when it comes to arguments, people will say, "Oh, you're just repeating arguments that a lot of people popularized in 2016, right? The 4 horsemen of atheism, yeah, sure, they popularized anti-Christian views back in 2006 with the release of books like God is Not Great and The God Delusion. That's not popular anymore. No one cares about this." Like, it doesn't matter if it's not popular. The arguments are still strong.
So, do you really want a president that deranges the other side? In other words, do you want to live in a nation deranged left wing or less deranged left wing at the margin? That question should answer itself. We should want a president that makes an effort not to needlessly upset the half of the country that didn't vote for him. And Biden, despite all his flaws, is much closer to that kind of person. And the second reason is that I don't buy this idea that
Joe Biden is your typical neoliberal centrist who is not going to fuel any flames anywhere as much as you think he is. The only concern that I have, and I think this is a legitimate argument, that because Joe Biden has said consistently that he's not planning on running for a second term, which basically means that Kamala Harris is going to be the next president of the United States, and Kamala Harris is pretty woke, or at least she's pandered towards the woke left at least, then that would be the strongest argument.
That Joe Biden is a Trojan horse for the social justice left. The idea that he's too weak to stand up to the pressure he'll get from his left. Or as Ben Shapiro
He just doesn't care.
put it, that the Democrats are the party of AOC and Bernie, and they're wearing the mask.
That's not true at all. Yes, they are popular among people under the age of 21, but for poll after poll shows that most people on the most Democrats don't care about that stuff. They show a relatively favorable view towards democratic socialism, but they're not to the point of like AOC or Burners. Most people are just like regular, like they just want to go back towards the status quo.
Theory, I can understand why people would be afraid of this, but look at what has actually happened. Right? The far left wants court packing, radical policy. This is a perfect opportunity to test the theory that Biden is a Trojan horse. But what did Biden do? On Thursday, he said they'll form a commission to study it. And let's be clear about what that means. Form a commission is politician speak for fuck off, I'm never doing it. What is there? You add liberal justices and the court becomes more liberal. End of study. So what he means is that we're not court packing. And how could he have said that if he's just a Trojan horse for the far left? Another example, in the final debate, he said, "I beat Bernie and Elizabeth, and all of those guys disagree with him." Right? He's bragging about defeating the far left. Another perfect test. In the first debate, Trump challenges him.
That is a very good point, Mr. Coleman Hughes.
That he won't even say the words law and order because the far left hates those words. He's a Trojan horse for them. And then Biden simply calls the bluff. He says, "I'm for law and order plus justice." So where's the hard evidence that he's a Trojan horse or an empty suit? I understand this is a gut feeling people have.
It's really weird how he keeps zooming in on himself, or I mean, whoever his editor is.
But because of that, there can be an air of unfalsifiability to it. If you believe he's a Trojan horse, ask yourself, what could he do or say in the next 2 weeks to convince you that he's not?
She's too. Have you guys seen AOC on Twitch? She's too busy playing Among Us.
Against left-wing illiberalism 1 year from now.
Yeah, I haven't seen
2 years from
those.
now, and even 10 years
It's
from now.
interesting.
4 more years of Trump is not going to make that fight any easier. Anyway, that's the flavor.
All right, so let's look at the comments. Because this got a lot of dislikes. Usually, like, this guy is usually on point. I love this guy. His name's Coleman Hughes. He's fantastic. He is one of my favorite commentators on race relations. He's had amazing guests like Glenn Lowry. He's had James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian, Sam Harris. He's had, oh, no kidding. He's had Peter Singer on? I don't even know he had Peter Singer on. Yeah, Brett Weinstein. So this guy's great. He even had Brian Greene. Look at that. Theoretical physicist Brian Greene, Chuck Warder, Sean Carroll. Yeah, Sean Carroll's like super duper woke, and he's willing to talk to him. So that's great. So this guy's fantastic. This is by far his most disliked video. So what are some of the arguments that people are posing? So let's see. Let's look at this guy. While I agree that wokeism has taken over so much of the culture that the president may not be able to stop it, the president could slow it down. I was a Biden supporter until this summer because of all the reasons you stated. He was centrist. He seemed nice. I thought he might have a chance at unifying the country, but he didn't respond like a centrist this summer during the insanity. He barely responded at all. The illiberalism won't stop. I prefer a leader who is actively fighting against it than one who will kindly step out of the way. The problem is that this leader can't be Trump, because Trump just amplifies all the power that the woke left has, because they are he's the perfect caricature of what they're claiming the United States to be. So I agree. Yeah, probably a president who does this, who argues against this, would be good, but it's not Donald Trump. And it's much better to have a president who just doesn't care, like Joe Biden, than someone who just makes things worse, like Donald Trump. I imagine he has a small portion of his... I mean, a small portion. I'm sure it's a large portion of it, actually. I'm sure a large portion of it is only interested in the anti-SJW stuff. I'm actually pretty impressed with the comment section. Despite overwhelming disagreement, almost everyone was respectful. That's the good thing. That's all that I care about. Just be respectful. It's okay if you disagree with him. Just be nice. Don't be mean. You've done a good job at building the trust. Yeah. So Coleman's great. But I say this as someone. Oh my God, I'm not reading all that. Just kidding. I'll read it. You're voting for Joe Jorgensen? Joe Jorgensen was the one that said it's not enough to be neutral in racism. You have to be actively an anti-racist. And gigantic fan of you and your rationale in general. I don't see how your points are endorsements for Biden or even competitions against Trump. These are more or less conversations of, is it better to appease the irrational or fight them head on? No. Candor. Wow, Justice Candor is what you've been convinced of? It isn't conventional. It's been used as a springboard of the left to prop him up as a pillar of antagonism and demonizing behavior, and it ultimately leaves his actual actions in the dust. Many people reference the idea of Trump rather than his actual words, rather than critique his policies. It is always a vague notion of who he is as a person. I mean, it was at first. Now, you can't say that anymore when he's bombing Syrian kids. And if that is the only reason we can back Biden is because he is so inoffensive that the erosion of American society will burn us, a subtle, indoctrinating smolder rather than a low trash can fire, then I stand a defenseless position. It's not a defenseless position at all. How can we expect to make cultural change if we are letting what cultural change is the president going to do, especially when he has someone as partisan as Donald Trump, who destroy cultural dictate, and how we can stand up to them? Is this a better America or a more complacent one? You change whatever. And whether one's hate for him stems from how braggadocious and improper he is, I like that word. It is just factual that Trump's policies are overall good. I won't say anything about that. Had his economic, domestic, and I mean, if you're voting for him for his economic policies, his domestic and foreign trade, and the way that he views China, that's fine. You can do that. But we're specifically talking about woke here. That was his main argument. Black unemployment is that okay, on-time low, whatever. Yes, I've heard those arguments before, whatever. These are just the highlights with plenty of missteps along the way, but an overall good run. So much so, yes, but if you're worried about the woke, those things don't matter because it's worse. And in the long run, maybe we should vote for somebody else in which we could fix the issues with someone who has a clear head about this topic. So much so that the stuff we heard from mainstream media and the left ad hominem attacks, yes, that is true. And source of data, that is true. I will admit that. A lot of the mainstream media does lie about what Trump does. His GOP tax bill in 2016 is a prime example of an overall policy was twisted into stroking the monkeys of the rich. This guy does not like the establishment. Lastly, should we let the loud few control a country? Well, we shouldn't. I agree. It is a loud few. That's what a lot of people forget, that it is just a loud few that are super duper woke. Should we fear a storm if a long chill is quieter? Fair questions. Perhaps we should look back at the Civil War and ask Abraham Lincoln, wouldn't it have been easier to leave good men and women in chains? Whoa, that is a terrible, terrible comparison, dude. But whatever. The South would have been a lot more tame if we had that. Whoa. Yeah, screw context, am I right? Trump will never be as humble, proud, or positively impactful as Lincoln. Why did... No shit. Did you even have to write that out? But I sure as hell would never wish to resign my hands South out of fear of the damage they could cause. Nowhere near the same thing. Nowhere near the same thing. It's an astute observation that the president has less influence than people pretend. Yes, you are completely correct on that. I think people would be less hostile and siloed if they realized that other parts of life matter far more than elections. This was true 4, 8, 12 years ago. Unfortunately, anymore. If people put as much energy into relationships, family, their career, their education, as they spend worrying about politics, they would be a lot happier, and their lives would be much better off. I forget who said it, but has Trump given his official opinion on climate change? I thought he was just anti-climate catastrophe. He's anti-catastrophe. He originally said before he became president that climate change was a Chinese hoax. He didn't do a 180 on it, but he softened on it. Assume that what he would say now is that yes, climate change is real. It is mostly caused by humans, but we shouldn't be catastrophic about it. That's what I assume he'd say now, but that's definitely not what he said at first. He ignored it or said that it's a Chinese hoax. Yeah, he said it's a Chinese hoax at first. Plus, he's had a consistent hostility to science, yes, especially during COVID, from denying climate change to think we can drink bleach. The wokeism started in Obama with the Ferguson, the police sector, stupidly, and the Trayvon. Okay, so BLM is not... Oh, shoot. My laptop's frozen. Sorry, my laptop froze for a second. I hope I didn't screw up the stream. I keep hearing this, that wokeism started under Obama. It depends on how you define wokeism. I don't think BLM woke. I wouldn't consider that a woke movement. There's huge overlap between people who are woke and people who support BLM. But generally speaking, there are legitimate grievances that BLM advocates for or tries to bring to light. Like there is a prison disparity. There's a disparity when it comes to the cops and black people, not when it comes to shooting, at least from the evidence that I've seen, from the studies that I've seen. Black people are not being disproportionately shot by police, but they are being disproportionately pulled over, roughed up earlier. There are studies that show that that disparity almost completely disappeared at nighttime when it's difficult to determine if someone is black or white. So that does seem to be a legitimate problem. Okay. I think we're good on this video, right? So overall, I agree with him. I liked the video already. Yes, vote for Joe Biden, people. If you guys want me to review a video, go ahead and put it in the comment section. That'd be interesting. There are... Let's see. Let's go to see what the YouTube algorithm says I should watch. So Milo Yiannopoulos at UCSD, because I watched. I just finished reading Milo Yiannopoulos' book. Actually, I finished it today. Dangerous. So, and he mentioned it in there that he went to my university. So I watched a few videos of him speaking to my university, and so now he's appearing in my recommended tab. I also have a bunch of Impractical Jokers there. Review a video with Alex Jones and Joe Rogan. Oh, don't make me watch that, man. Joe Rogan. Yeah, it was him and Tim Dillon, right? Oh, don't make me watch that. Don't make me watch that. Okay, I need a beer before I watch this. I need a beer before I watch... Oh, Gad Saad was on there. Dude, let's also review Gad Saad. Okay.
And so people...
All right, we're going to review this. I'll be right back. I'm going to get another beer because I definitely need it for this. I will be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Get to know each other. Form a community. Hello, everyone. I hope I'm not. So I'm looking at my. So I have two monitors, and one of them is looking at my other screen. One of them is looking at my other screen. One of them is looking at like what is being filmed of me, and it's very laggy. Am I laggy for you guys, or is it good? What is it like? You drag at times. I hope it's not too laggy. Be right back one more time. 2 seconds. Okay, so let me do this then. Let me remove this. Let's see if we can get it to go back to normal. We had 10 viewers. It was amazing. Hey, history's shittiest disciple is here. How you doing, man? You better smash that like button. This guy's great, by the way. He's legit brilliant. He has great arguments when it comes to veganism and culture and masculinity. Go check him out. Everyone go subscribe to him. He's a good friend of mine. He's fantastic. We need to get you on, dude. Because I am trying to become a vegan. Okay, so add to stream. How are we at? Let's see. Let's see if this. Okay, so let's do this. Let's see Alex Jones and Tim Dillon.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Young Jamie, back in the fucking saddle. How you feeling?
Very well.
COVID-free 4 days in a row now. Yeah, and now you still can't taste anything?
Well,
You like a
sorry,
battery?
come back today. Yeah, like 5%.
We'll only watch a bit of it because this is a 3-hour podcast. All right.
Taste. Yeah, I mean, taste the juice doesn't even taste like anything.
Really? Just taste the water? Whoa.
Very weird.
But you don't have any residual symptoms? Nothing wrong?
All good. Can breathe everything. Yeah.
I want to, but I'm just really weak-willed right now.
Good to see you back,
Okay,
buddy.
good.
We're a little worried about you.
I legitimately think the arguments for veganism are way more convincing and philosophically sophisticated than the arguments against it. The strongest argument against veganism that I come up with is the idea that because animals are nowhere near as conscious as human beings to the point where they could experience pleasure in the same way that we can experience pleasure, and they can experience gratitude in the same way we can experience gratitude, therefore there's no good argument that we have a social contract with them. Best argument against it. Still totally bogus, I think.
A little worried about you. Not worried about you. Alex Jones! This is the most anticipated thing I ever did. I probably had 2,000 or 3,000 people in the last year and a half ask me, when are you going back on Joe Rogan? And I'm always saying, I don't know. Now we're moving here like 3-4 months ago, and now we're here. This is exciting. I don't get butterflies anymore, but I actually have them here, and this is great. It's good to have butterflies after about 20 years. Did 2 times I was on. Didn't get them when I interviewed Trump. Didn't get them in a lot of things, but I've got butterflies here today. And Tim, motherfucking Tim.
Yeah, I'm just a kid at a candy store. Thank you. Thank you for making this dream come true.
He has a free Jelaine shirt. Check out Jerry Clips YouTube. Oh, really? Oh, let's do that actually. No, don't free her. She's she helps Jeffrey Epstein. JRE Clips. I don't. You're actually 100% right. Poor quality of our meats is enough of an argument. Yeah, I mean, Okay, so what do we got? Oh, that's Cat's Head. I don't care about Cat's Head. Oh, did you see the one with Kanye? Alex Jones take on COVID lockdowns. I don't want to see it. Alex Jones on Bohemian Grove, Skull and Bones, Epstein, Wald. Oh, yeah, I didn't watch Matthew McConaughey. Joe Rogan has been getting some fantastic guests recently. And I'm assuming that the reason why he had Alex Jones first place was because he wanted to give a huge, giant middle finger to Spotify employees that wanted to censor him. Use some clips from Dave Rubin clips next. Oh, Dave Rubin clips is a fantastic Twitter. We'll go on that in a bit, for sure. Let's look at this.
The Joe Rogan.
So here's the thing. Alex Jones was right about Jeffrey Epstein. Alex Jones would talk about him, or about that. He sort of alluded to him, so he was right about that.
Experience.
Who goes in there?
Well, people I like. I mean, Clint Eastwood's gone. He's not really a member. Look.
Is it fun?
Look. It's 2,700 acres by Mark Twain, and it was a liberal deal for like hookers and gay dudes and just everything else. It's a big, huge.
Would you say gay dudes? What?
Gay dudes.
Gay dudes. I was like,
No, I'm saying.
Put Head Wilson, one of the best Mark Twain books out there.
You go back to like the 1870s when Mark Twain set up, it was classically liberal. It was partying. It was their own 27 acres. It was saloons. They brought in female hookers. There was gay guys in there. Everything. It was Bohemian Grove, what they called that. The people did whatever they wanted. It was open, and they had like poetry and they had plays. And then by the time Howard Taft became president, the Republicans basically bought it. So the reason it's important is the Republicans go there to like they ship in all these private hookers, all these jets land nearby, but they also have a lot of gay sex, which they use then to basically compromise people into the cult. And so there's a lot of gay sex.
well, how do you know this?
It came out in news articles. No one ever got footage of it. I was in there for one day. I snuck in. I looked good back then. They hit on me a lot. I had like people I recognized from TV walk away.
Alex Jones is right about a lot of things. You should follow Infowars. Here's the thing. I listen to a lot of Infowars. I didn't do the calculation itself. I'll do the calculation, but the percentage of things that he's right about is much lower than the percentage of things that other people are right about, even when we're talking about things like CNN. But the big thing is that because he talks about crazy stuff, because it is a crazy claim that he's making that ends up true, people overvalue the fact that he was right about something. But from a statistical standpoint, he is not right more so or like on par with MSM places like CNN or MSNBC or even Fox News. He's not. He's more wrong than right. But it's just because the claims that he makes are crazy. And when they end up being right, people tend to over amplify just how valuable that claim was. So people are under the impression that, oh, he's actually mostly right. Like, he's not. He's still crazy wrong about a lot of things.
Let's go right now. I mean, it's a big gay hookup deal for Republicans. I'm just telling you what it is. And then they got this ritual that's only the feeder group. So I'm sitting there during the ritual, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. The dude goes, shut up, I'll kill you. And they're all taking it very seriously. I'm not saying it's a gay thing. I'm saying something
So
goes on.
you were saying it was cool and people were getting angry that you were saying.
No, I mean, I was just quietly going, oh, this is really interesting. They're like, shut up, this is a very important ritual. And they were taking it very serious. It's Hearst County.
Oh, a good place to actually go to if you want to like listen to some pretty like right-wing people. Go on Censor TV. So I have a subscription to this one. I don't want you guys to see my email. So 1 second, remove, login. So I try to keep in touch with like what the far right believes. And one of the things I do is I go on Censor.tv, which I'm sure a lot of people would hate me for saying that because they'll say, Gavin McInnes isn't far right. He's not alt-right. He's not racist. Whatever. But anyways, yeah, so these guys. So I try to keep my ear on the ground for what everyone is saying. So Gavin McInnes, founder of the Proud Boys, leader of... Oh, he had Dinesh D'Souza on. I got to listen to that. But yeah, so basically, you know. So I try to listen to it. AIU is on here now, actually. Atheism is Unstoppable. He got kicked off of YouTube. So he's on here. Yeah, so I try to keep my ears to the ground.
Comes in with the body that isn't effigy.
Yeah. Well, it's just a bundle of sticks, right?
Yeah, well, it looks like a kid. No, later, others infiltrated later that worked there and got his photos of it. It's an image of a kid. It's a little kid.
Because Mulligan in
Alex Jones is the embodiment of fear mixed with conservative. The 1% has so much power and influence compared to the average Joe. It's crazy. Yeah, so the United States is ranked like what, 50th when it comes to wealth inequality? Let's see. Countries with the highest income inequality. With the highest income inequality. We're like 50th, right? In the world. And when you're just looking at like when you're just looking at first world countries, we're pretty high up there. So let's see. What is number one? So like South. I know Brazil is pretty bad. Where's Brazil? Brazil tied for 8th. Okay, Yeah, so we're 51. We're tied for one. So we're pretty bad when it comes to income inequality in first world countries. Income inequality in first world countries. The 15 countries are the biggest gap between these 50. Yeah, okay, but I want. But yeah, we're pretty bad. The 1% control so much,
Biblical is who they sacrificed that came in.
which unfortunately only fuels the conspiracy theories that comes when people are trying to make claims about the elites.
Bull, but they do it as an owl.
They do it as an owl, yeah. That's from the Bible. You would sacrifice a child to Moloch.
Give not your children to the fires of Moloch.
Right,
And
right.
so I've given it to experts in religious history. It's not even from Christian perspective. Yeah. It's a Faustian deal mixed with Babylonian and religious stuff from Tyre.
Yeah.
Babylonian. He's giving us a shout out, guys. He's giving us a shout out.
It's
Like,
quirky.
look at that owl god, and look at the fire underneath the owl god.
And there's Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, and I did take Babylon obviously from the Bible. That's probably where it's most popular. But the Babylon Project, I guess, just to sort of explain why I titled it the Babylon, because the Babylon tends to be like, there's like 10 different definitions for it, right? There's some biblical definitions, there's some futuristic definitions for it, and I chose it based on the futurism definition, which it tends to be associated with advanced societies.
Saw that. If you were in the woods and you just saw that, you would be terrified.
And Richard Nixon says, Richard Nixon tape says it's a gay orgy.
Richard Nixon said
You
that.
can pull up. Richard Nixon talks about
Yeah, Richard Nixon said something about it where he.
it's the most goddamn faggy thing you ever seen.
Must be true.
I think it's just allowing.
Well, nothing against that's what it's saying.
I think it's guys that aren't gay. They're that engage in gay acts in the woods, and then they have something on each other, similar to Epstein's Island. Where
That's
it's like,
it.
that's what
It's
it
a
is.
rich. It's like a fraternity doing that. You gotta
So
screw
is
it.
that part?
Hazing.
Hold on a second. What is this here?
And
And they don't allow women.
No.
It says founded 1870 male.
That's the context that YouTube
Bohemian
talk
Club?
about Bohemian Grove. This is the title of the video.
See, I told you, found 1872.
Richard Nixon, Bohemian Grove, most faggy goddamn thing he could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Yes, play it. 100.
Joe, give me a heads up. Say one of those words, because otherwise the algorithm is going to screw us.
Percent
Dang
play
it,
it.
Joe.
I want to hear
It's a
this.
Nixon tape. Yeah.
Let me hear this.
Let's look at Northern California. You understand?
Northern California.
You know San Francisco just gone. It's clear over its island, but it isn't. It's just not the right part of town. But the upper class in San Francisco is that way. The Bohemian Grove that I attend, one time, these years, the others come there. But it's faggy about them. You won't get never imagine a San Francisco crowd goes in. It's just
San Francisco
terrible.
crowd goes in there. It's just terrible. Okay.
So weird. The owl and the it's interesting, and I don't know how seriously they take it. I mean, that's a real question, right?
Well, yeah,
Because
I mean, the whole gay thing's a side. The point is that I've talked to people. I mean, according to Ted Gunderson, first time I ever heard about this was from this former high-level FBI agent who was with the FBI director, but he wouldn't go along with corruption, so he wasn't. It's on record. Gunderson almost didn't get that record.
and he blew
Yeah, Alex Jones has so many connections. It's amazing. Every time I hear him talk, he's like, former FBI directors tell me this, really high class individuals tell me this. Where do you meet these people, Alex?
up like the things like the Franklin scandal, and he's
And the Finders
Finders
Club.
cult, which was huge,
Yeah.
which where the CIA was caught
Confirmed.
trafficking. The Finders cult was caught trafficking children, and the CIA squashed the Florida
And then Gunderson got it
yeah.
raided in D.C. and found a whole CIA facility with the snuff films, everything.
telex machine.
And so he told me
communicating,
about all this, and I thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
Even though he's Ted Gunderson.
You told us about it, and we actually pulled up one of those stories.
and I was correct.
Yes, you're correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Ted Gunderson's the reason I know about this, and he said that they get people interested with that ritual. There's like 2,000 members, they bring about 1,000 guests. Not everybody can bring a guest. Only the head of each camp to bring a guest. Most of them are nice. Clint Eastwood goes there, Danny Glover goes there. But it's an all-male deal.
Who's the other one?
Danny Glover.
Oh, Danny Glover?
Just mentioned it.
Lethal Weapon Danny
I saw
Glover?
him there.
How the fuck is he in there?
They probably like him for
He's
the
just a
movie.
fun guy.
Danny Glover from Predator 2?
I saw him when I was there. I saw Danny Glover.
Interesting. I'm starting to believe this is not. I'm starting to believe we can get in. I'm starting to believe it's not that.
They'd had him immediately.
I mean,
Not now.
do a podcast
Oh,
from
I
in
don't
front of the owl.
But I just want to say that overall,
Why
it started
not?
out as a truly artsy liberal thing. I think is good. I think guys deserve to go off the woods like he does as humans,
Fuck
humans
fuck,
and,
right?
and party and do whatever.
Well, they got to add more clips about him. 3-hour podcast. There's only 3 clips. One for each hour, really? Hunter Biden's laptop Trump. Yeah, that's really fishy. They should do that stuff. Alex Jones taking COVID lockdowns. All right, let's see.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Statistically, they said 5% of us will be dead. It's not even
Well, they thought that,
0.1%.
though.
Okay, already he's wrong. Statistically, they said 5% of us would be dead. No, they said worst case scenario. It is possible, but between 1 and 3 million people in the United States would die if we did nothing. They were very clear about that. I could be wrong though. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what he says.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Statistically, they said 5% of us will be dead. It's not even
Well, they thought that,
0.1%.
though.
Okay,
This is what they
but
thought.
they're the all-powerful gods. It's like the UN.
Oh, they didn't think that. Like they just said worst case scenario. The epidemiologist from Harvard. I forget his name because it's been like 6 months since we started lockdown. But they were. I always hear this. They take the most catastrophic statistic that the people were really concerned about COVID would say, and they'll say, "Oh, you thought this." Well, that was the worst case scenario. They didn't say that what was most likely going to happen. They just said that was the worst case scenario. So
You will not quit.
already he's wrong.
question us. Big Tech says you will not question anything the UN says. You know, the UN's like, oh, we shouldn't do a lockdown. It's killing millions of people, starvation. But still, it's like, we're keeping it going. The United Nations said.
Well, what do you think should be done?
I mean, I think we should look at something that isn't much worse than the flu and say we all need natural vitamins and nutraceuticals and sunlight and health. And people should just know they got to deal with it the way it is because we always get diseases. We always get viruses. We always live with it. The idea we got to lock society out and go into our houses. And this is a post-industrial move that they're using to roll out these systems to keep us locked down in our homes.
Right. And if you want to be cynical, this is where you step in and say the reason why they want us to be upset and they want the economy to be fucked is because they hate the president and they want him out of office and they want to regain power. They want the
They
Democrats
want to
in
remake
office.
the American economy in the image of what they want. They want to remake a lot of these systems that they feel are, for whatever reason, unjust or unjust or whatever. And they want to use this opportunity.
Tim Dillon's a comedian, right? Former director of athletics at Canada. Never mind. He was hired to replace. Who is this guy? I've seen him on Joe Rogan a few times. What? Oh, comedian. Stand-up comedian, writer, and actor. Is this him? Oh, what is this? What kind of website is this, dude? All right, I'm assuming he's a comedian.
To kind of redraw the lines.
Exactly.
After 9/11.
Exactly. This is the new 9/11. The UN and the Davos Group all say this is the post-industrial world, the Great Reset. I got a copy of it for right here. And they say in these documents, we are going to reorganize society. COVID is good to shut down the carbon. Carbon is, we're going to end success. We're going to end prosperity. We're going to track everybody. We're going to control their lives, all under the name of COVID.
They said all that. They said we're going to end success. We're going to end prosperity.
Yeah, in the lockstep, the Rockefeller document 2010, they say we'll have a viral release or simulated one that creates total fear. We'll bring a police state, martial
Is this
law.
available for someone to read?
Absolutely.
Wasn't there something called Agenda
Trying to
21 or
find that?
something where they were saying we want people living in cities, we don't want home ownership. we don't
Compact cities, yeah.
Yeah, this is-
and you were saying it earlier. They go, oh, it's for the greater good that we don't have cars anymore. It's for the greater good. We have
No,
done
that's not what I'm saying. What I was doing was playing devil's
No,
advocate.
you were quoting them.
What I was saying,
I'm not saying you said that, Joe. You believe in that.
I was saying
Believe
that I do believe in cars too. Autonomous vehicles are in the future, at least, likely to be safer than people just driving and texting.
Well, it's not safe to control these corporations and robots making ourselves obsolete. We build a program in the future.
Whoa, what?
At least-
What?
Believe them.
What I was saying,
I'm not saying you said that, Joe. You believe in that.
I was saying
Believe
that I do believe in cars too. Autonomous vehicles are in the future, at least, likely to be safer than people just driving and texting.
Well, it's not safe to control these corporations and robots making ourselves obsolete. We build a program in the future.
Oh, I'm pro-human. But
I know you-
other than saying
I'm
there's
not saying you said that,
autonomous-
Joe.
Hold on. Let me slow this down because I have no idea what he's saying.
Believe in that.
I
You
was
believe in
saying
homes?
that I do believe in cars too. Autonomous vehicles are in the future, at least, likely to be safer than people just driving and texting.
Well, it's not safe given control of these corporations and robots making ourselves obsolete. We need to build a pro-human future.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by pro-human? Like a future in which we don't have to be concerned as automation as we are now? Yeah, sure. I agree. That's why we should vote for Andrew Yang. 2024. Andrew Yang. We have UBI. Or at the very least, if UBI is not the answer, Andrew Yang is introducing the conversation about it into the United States, which is deeply needed. Deeply, deeply needed.
Oh, I'm pro-human. But
I know you are. I'm not saying
the
you're not, Joe.
Rockefeller thing. Man, that sounds weird.
So
I'm
I've already,
pro-human.
I started. And I was already looking this up as you mentioned it because I was going down my own little rabbit hole. It says when I first started to find it, my first search it says there's a large conspiracy to build out a small grain of truth from this document from 2010.
Okay.
That's what it starts to say. So I
Oh, that's Snopes?
Yeah.
So Snopes is
let's-
like God. It's
I
like,
don't think, is it Snopes that you Googled?
Let's focus on the grain of
no,
truth.
who says it's a grand truth? No, it's Operation Lockstep, and it says a global police state will be brought in from a pandemic, and there'll be worldwide martial law. It actually says it in the document.
Okay.
It's like, oh, there's no 100 emails to admit the emails are real.
Right.
I love that clock.
It is weird that they're saying GGT Studios, but it is weird.
Here's the document.
Okay. The Rockefeller Foundation Annual Report 2010.
I'll control F. What would you like to look up?
Look up police state. Look up.
Yeah, just
don't forget the exact words. I mean, just read it for yourself, man.
Control F Police State.
Came up.
This is just one paper. That's it.
I mean, it's the whole PDF. It's like it's really, really, really long.
So when you control F
Yeah,
Police
go
State,
down.
nothing. Okay. What else?
I mean, I've read it before. It says that, so anybody can read it now.
So you think they edited it?
No, it's, I mean, I can't remember the exact words.
Okay, but let's look up pandemic. Look up pandemic.
Pandemic just means widely distributed. Epidemic means actually said.
4 mentions of the word pandemic.
Okay. All right. With no network to transfer critical infectious disease information without open lines of communications, thousands more fall sick. The new, in quotes, disease becomes an unchecked pandemic. By the time the right expertise is brought to bear on the
Push for world
problem,
government.
it's too late. The disease has spread around the globe. In a world of global trade and travel, what's traded faster and travels furthest are the microbes in every handshake. Southeast Asia. So what is this in reference to? Okay, it says a few miles east. Young boys, man. Hold on, don't please go back to that. Yeah, it's just a scenario that they're painting. So make that a little larger. No, go back to it to where it was. All right. The potential pandemic of the past few decades have severely tested the world's ability to work across human borders. Detection remains weak in many parts of the world. The public health response has frequently been slow and fragmented. The looming threat of infectious disease presents humanity with a new challenge to communicate and collaborate swifter and with greater efficiency than ever before. That doesn't sound like they're trying to end the world.
Okay, well, you're just reading one of these documents. I can pull the article.
I
And show you
understand,
yourself.
but this
It's
is-
world government controlled. They talk about a worldwide police state. You search the term pandemic. I'm telling you what's in these things.
Okay, emerging pandemics.
Why does anyone take them seriously?
New century SARS, avian flu, and swine flu. If we don't move
Investigated systems to bring in
quickly,
global
it seems
government.
like they're trying to prevent pandemics. If
They
we
love
don't
us.
move quickly, viruses will. By continuing our drive to invest in systems that coordinate efforts and share information, the Rockefeller Foundation is working to
Yeah, which is
ensure
the global
that we have
government
the
controlling all
ability
this.
to meet the health challenges of an interconnected world.
Isn't the perfect analogy terrorism? Because it's like terrorism exists. People want to prevent terrorism. But it's like, how many rights do you give up in order to do that? And then, all these proactive measures that we take to prevent terrorism, a lot of them create more terrorists. So I think it's like a balance of like remaining a free society and dealing with a lot of these
Now,
problems.
listen, I sit here, we sit here and we talk about something, and then whether Jamie can find it or not becomes an argument whether it's real. A lot of things they didn't find thing about this. I've got the Operation Lockstep documents where they say we're going to bring in this global
Okay,
authoritarian
but
police
you
state.
have to show us those.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting here in studio talking to you about this.
But I understand. I
That's all-
understand what you're
that's
saying. But
else watching this is going to look it up.
Well, I hope they do.
Or it'll crazy.
I
Oh, that's
I
good.
wish we could have found it right then if it's real.
No, you want to show it.
But it might be an interpretation of what they're saying, like the Whitmer
No, it
quote.
says specifically.
The Whitmer quote is just a criticism of Trump.
I like this. This is what I like about Joe Rogan. He constantly, like, he's not a Dave Rubin who just listens and nods his head and says, "Yeah, you have a good point." He legitimately actually come back. We're done with this video, actually, I think. So Joe Rogan, let's watch this. Candace Owens, climate change. Here we go. This was probably one of my favorite clips by Joe Rogan that everyone knows about. It's amazing.
Walker's at the point.
But I don't understand how you think that we're almost losing America and there's a battle for America.
I
Like,
really
what
feel
way?
that, like, just in every regard, in terms of just the people that were running, like Hillary, a globalist. Like, to think about who we were in bed with, like Saudi Arabia, selling all of our uranium to Russia. Like Trump came in and was like, no, like America, people, we were at the gap, like we lost, we're losing the middle class. The gap between the rich and the poor was like literally.
What do you think's causing that?
Policies, shipping all of our overseas, the regulation, the government getting bigger and bigger. You can't do anything as an entrepreneur in America without a piece of paper from the government, discouraging people with a piece of paper, like shutting down the factories, forgetting that there's something, there's a little land between New York and LA, believe it or not. Like, and this is what Trump understood. We were losing that. And Trump appealed to those people. I'm still floored. Like, as I'm traveling the world and seeing different pieces of the country, I'm learning how ignorant I was. Like, and that's the best thing in the entire
what
world.
way?
Just, I fell victim to the idea that, like, it was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's like, no, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
You
I
don't
thought,
think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you-
not even a little bit. Like,
not even a little bit?
Okay, so keep in mind what she said. So let's take this video one step at a time because she contradicts herself in this video in a way that is so blatantly obvious that it's actually astounding. So listen what she said specifically. Listen what she said.
the idea that, like, it was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's like, no, like, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
I think we have to care about the environment.
So Joe Rogan asks her, "You don't think we have to care about the environment?" And she says,
Like,
not even a little bit. Like,
"Not even a little bit." So that's what she said, right? I'm not putting words in her mouth. I'm not misinterpreting what she's saying. She's specifically saying, no, not even a little bit, and she's laughing at it when it comes to the environment. She's not concerned about the environment. She's saying this specifically after Joe Rogan asked her, "You don't think we should care about the environment?"
not even a little bit?
no, okay, let me. I don't throw trash on the ground. Like, I'm not saying, like, we need to, like, trash the environment. Like, but do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
So she specifically says, "I don't believe in climate change." Specifically says this.
Well, I think the climate always changes. I guess is what I should do. I believe it.
She believes the climate always, yes, the climate always changes. Okay, true. We have Milankovitch cycles. We have a bunch of stuff.
This is, like, an issue that is being that's global warming, which they've changed. Immediately got rid of the word when scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change. No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't at all believe they had no actionable plan. It was great for Trump to get out of that deal. It was terrible.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists
Right.
and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them
Right.
and what can combat it and what cannot. Have you done all this? Or
No,
do you
so I
take
think-
this flippant opinion
No,
based
listen,
on the
I'm not.
party
This is
line?
not. This wouldn't be the hill I died on, right? But it's not about part. I just genuinely, I've read a ton about
It's not the hill she'd die on, even though she laughed it off.
it. But I would not be able to. I would not be able to come to you and say, like, this is my strong opinion. But here's, like, the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to.
Very little.
Yep.
Very little disparity.
But-
Most scientists, most.
Wait,
It's
what?
just genuinely, I've read a ton about it, but
What
I would
have
not
you
be able to. I would not be able to come to you and say, like, this is my strong opinion. But here's, like, the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to.
There's no disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real.
Very little.
Yep.
Very little disparity.
But-
Most scientists.
I mean, there is a greater disparity when it comes to determining what gravity is. Whether we're talking about non-Euclidean geometry, is Einstein correct, or is there maybe some other form of gravity that is whatever closer? There's a bigger disparity when it comes to determining what gravity is than what climate change.
Scientists, the vast majority, agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
Yeah. I don't. I just don't think so.
So you think that the very few scientists
So she's saying she doesn't believe that. She says, "I don't think so."
that disagree are the ones that are correct?
Well, I think if something is, it's either subjective or it's objective, and they're objective truths, right? But it's subjective if you're saying that there are some. I don't think there's very little. There are some that don't get paid to go on TV. There's some that are not Bill Nye, who are not funded scientists. And
I hate this. They make fun of Bill Nye because he's not a he's an engineer, and which means he's taken physics classes in his undergraduate career. You don't need to be. Bill Nye is a science communicator. He's not pretending that he's a climate scientist. He's just communicating what the general consensus amongst climate scientists are.
that has been a whole.
Well, Bill Nye's not a scientist. She's not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's not a scientist. She's not a scientist either, and yet she's giving her opinion on climate change and laughing and saying that it's not real. So who cares?
He's
It broke my heart.
Who cares what she says? According to her logic, Bill Nye's not a scientist. We shouldn't be listening to him. According to Joe Rogan, Bill Nye's not a scientist. So why are we listening to him? Why are we listening to you guys? You guys aren't climate scientists either. So let's listen to the climate scientists. And what happens when we listen to the climate scientists? Wow, the overwhelming majority of them say it's real.
I
A
found out.
science
Mouthpiece.
propagandist.
Yeah, but
or
that's the point.
He's a
And-
science. No, that's not a good word.
I don't think Al Gore is a
propaganda negative,
scientist.
He's not.
Right.
But Bill Nye, is a science influencer or a
Right.
science entertainer.
Yeah, he's like
But
a-
he doesn't have a
like-
background in actual science. He's not a scientist. He doesn't have a PhD. He's got an
I learned about him in
undergraduate-
school. Everything
yeah.
in science had to do with
Well,
science,
he
so.
promotes science, and
Right.
science is not bad.
Yeah.
But the real problem is with change is that, for sure, there has been ups and downs throughout the history of this planet. They're observable. They follow them in. It was one of the subjects that I had earlier today with Dr. Robert Schoch. In 2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists, human activity is driving global warming. Yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So
Well, what website is this?
87%, and this is
Scientific American.
Yeah.
Yeah, .com though, like 'cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random web. And I
Well,
don't
Scientific
trust.
American is not necessarily a random website.
Yeah, I don't believe this like at all. Just so you know,
You don't believe it like at all?
I genuinely
You don't believe it like at all?
but I genuinely don't believe it.
I
Like,
believe most of the
87%.
time the consensus of scientists that are studying the data.
Right.
And so what they're doing is
But you
studying.
remember all the stories that came out about the scientists that said that when they tried to present their evidence to show like they were basically getting shut down at every corner? You can pull that up. Look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what
Well,
you're
wait a
searching for,
minute,
look for what
why-
you're not looking for.
I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I
Oh,
searched it.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, look up.
But
Like,
this
look
is
up-
my question.
yeah.
Why are you so sure? This is a
No, because what you just
extremely.
said. Because what you
This is
just
an
said.
extremely subject.
And it is. I said I am not so sure that I would die on the hill for it.
Mhm.
My opinion right now, and is just that it was a means because forget the fact of whether you believe global warming is real. Let's say it's 100% real. Let's say we know the fact it's real. Is there a way?
Well, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Warming, climate change is definitely real. It's happening.
Well,
the question
but
is
it's
why
always
is it happening?
happened.
Yes, it has always
So
happened.
what are we? What is the
The real-
climate change? Yes, the climate changes. It was different weather yesterday than it was today. The climate is forever changing. Like that's the problem. Is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No,
it's
no,
not
no.
unique.
You're misrepresenting the issue. The issue is people think that human beings are exacerbating climate
Right.
change to the point where there's a tipping point. We cross over that tipping
Right.
point. We're going to deal with huge problems that could be corrected if we act now and put a lot of funding into climate control.
Okay.
This is what Howard Bloom was on talking about a few days ago. He was talking about that the real future involves the technology of climate control, and that what we have to be really careful of is letting it get too far where you can't ever stop it and pull it back. This is what scientists are
Right.
warning about. This is why they want emission standards. This is why they want to figure out how to get people to be aware of the fact this is a real issue. Now,
Okay.
irregardless, human beings, if they never existed, the Earth has constantly gone through cycles. The question has gone through cycles of cooling and warming.
Right.
The question is, are we exacerbating that? The vast majority of scientists say we are.
Okay.
Now, this could negatively impact all sorts of coastal cities. This could be a gigantic problem. This is not like Enda that's drummed up by some sort of big business that seeks to make money off of this, or some sort of a
Well, they were making money off
organization.
of it.
Al Gore might have made some money
No,
off of
but
it.
like
who's
the
making money off
agreement that we were in, they were that was like the amount of money that America was losing. But here's what
You would gain so much more money if you're a scientist and you can definitively prove that climate change is not a thing. You will be rich. I promise you this. That's how the review system works.
I was going to ask you. So let's
Wait a minute, the amount of money.
So you have a huge incentive to prove that climate change is not real based on the overwhelming consensus based on climatists and based on physics, based on how thermodynamics works. You have a huge financial imperative if you want to get rich to prove that climate change is not a thing.
America was losing? Who's
in the
America?
Paris Agreement. This is the reason why we want to get out of the Paris Agreement.
is-
But that's why I wanted to get to.
there's
So let's say we all
arguments
agree
about
that
the Paris
global warming is real. I don't
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah, what does the Paris Agreement have to do with this? Okay, even if you can say that it's not economically beneficial towards the United States, which is why Donald Trump pulled out of it, that has nothing to do with whether or not climate change is actually real.
Real. Okay, so I
But
can't
why,
sit here.
but
I
what's the
can't. I
question?
can't.
But why have a belief?
What do you mean?
Why have a belief as to whether or not global warming is real or not real?
Because
If
I
you
just-
don't
I
have a
just find that
background
when
in it,
things
if you
get-
Yeah, she's saying like, oh, it's so complicated. Then why do you remember what I said? Or not what I said, what she said. Remember what she said. She laughed it off, saying, not even a little bit. When Joe Rogan asked her, you don't believe in climate change? She laughed and said, not even a little bit.
understand the
correct, you're
science,
correct.
but why have a belief in it?
Right. So it's not a belief. It's not a belief in it. I don't believe in it. I
That's
don't
what I'm
not
saying.
believe.
But you have a belief that it doesn't exist.
Right.
She said, it's not a belief. I don't believe in it.
I personally think that this was just the fact that it was presented to us by Al Gore and it was just
It's not presented to us just by Al Gore.
Yeah, seriously. Presented to us by Al Gore. Al Gore didn't come up with the concept of climate change.
Al Gore made a film,
Right.
and he's been called like the first.
You could make the argument, and you can make a strong argument that Al Gore politicized it. And I would agree with you. I do think Al Gore politicized it. And I think that what he did was worse. It made the situation worse for us. But that doesn't change whether or not he was right. Maybe you could say that he maybe exaggerated the effects of climate change. Sure. But the concept of climate change itself, that's different.
green billionaire.
Yeah.
He's made a shitload of money off of
and
that.
he flies in his private plane because he's so worried about the emissions. Okay.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's-
There's something hilarious about that.
all
but-
of the people that are
but
telling
he's
us.
a fucking politician.
Right.
There's grossness to all this stuff.
Right.
Right.
And that's what worries me. So my question is, let's say that it's real.
Okay.
Let's just assume, like that's the best way to
Let's
have
say
it
it's
be.
real.
Let's say it's 100%
Okay.
real. Do you feel that you have found in your research that there is something that human beings can do that would change?
Okay. The climate isn't changing. Our collective perspective has shifted to interpret the climate as warmer, but people can't affect the climate because people don't exist. The concept of climate just comes from a limited perception. You're 100% right, Candler.
change this all around.
It's possible, yes. One of the things that they're figuring out how to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and even possibly reuse it. There's all sorts of things that people are trying to do. I mean, we had what was the young man who made that device? Boyan Slot. He figured out a way to make this device that pulls plastic out of the
That dude's a genius.
oceans. They're figuring out a way. To, I mean, there's a lot
yeah,
of
well, because plastic just can't like over time. But that's what I mean. Like, so when I say that I'm like I believe in recycling. Like, I'm not like a person that's like this is. But the idea that the government is just going to take trillions of dollars because we're in some agreement where we're all agreeing that we should do something is useless.
Like, okay, she's arguing about the economic prospects of it. You can do that. You can do that honestly. You can argue about that. You can argue about whether or not the Paris Climate Accord deal was beneficial towards the United States. That's perfectly fine. That has nothing to do with whether or not climate change is actually a real thing. Unless you're saying that we shouldn't be in the Paris Climate Accord because climate change is not a real thing. But generally speaking, that's not what the argument is being had.
And look, from the stuff, like, there's obviously a lot of debate here. And as I said, like, I'm not so, the one thing you always find with me is I'll never pretend to be so educated on something. Like, I'm not going on college campuses talking about global warming. I don't do that.
Right, but why are you saying that you don't think it exists,
I don't know. Maybe
You're on Joe Rogan and you just laughed it off. Like, okay, if you're on the biggest podcaster in the world and you just laughed off climate change saying you don't believe in it one bit.
it got
Here
so,
it is.
maybe
Studies-
because it got so politicized.
studies into scientific agreement on human warming. And look at all the studies. It's between 100% and 91% at the lowest. 91% of one of the studies from 2014.
This is the Union of Concerned Scientists.
Yeah, they almost. It's a pretty.
.org. So what's funny is that she said before that if it's a .com website, she doesn't trust it. This is a .org website, so she should trust it.
Who are they polling? Is it the people that are part of this?
Who are they polling? Joe Rogan, scientists.
.org? That's what I'm asking. First, can
306 scientists to confirm over 97% of climate scientists agree, and over 97% of the scientific articles find that global warming is real and largely caused by humans. So my question to you is, if you want to step outside of the scientific consensus,
right,
and involves 10,306 scientists, and just say I don't believe in it,
yeah,
even if you're right, you don't have enough information to say that.
Right. No,
you might
right,
be correct,
that's why I said. That's
but you're saying you don't believe
I don't.
it.
Yeah, I would have to have and convince me that it was real. I personally don't believe it. That's okay.
But why?
It's good.
Wait, I would have to have someone sit down and convince me that it's real. Who? If 90% of climate scientists can't convince you that climate change is real and is caused by humans, who's going to convince you? Ben Shapiro? Alex Jones? Yiannopoulos? Nick Fuentes? Who knows? Who exactly is going to convince you that it's real?
It's good to start at a place of not believing something.
No, it's not.
You think you should start with believing everything?
No, it's either or. Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
100%. Exactly. So the default position will just not even talk about it. Don't mention it. Just say, I don't know. She did not say, I don't know. She specifically said, she laughed it off and said, not even a little bit. When asked, does she believe in climate change?
Learn about it.
Yeah.
Learn about it and then have an opinion. But you're stating this opinion without having any real understanding of what climate
Well,
science is.
But that's exactly what an opinion is. I'm not going, like I said, if you said that, Candace, you went on to 10,000.
What? That's exactly what an opinion is?
Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
Learn about it.
Yeah.
Learn about it and then have an opinion. But you're stating this opinion without having any real understanding of what climate science is.
But that's exactly what an opinion is. I'm not going. If you said that, Candace, you went on to 10,000 college campuses and you said that global warming wasn't real, then we have a problem. You and I just having a conversation.
Yeah, but why have an opinion on something that you don't have data about? This is my question. Like, I don't necessarily have an opinion on climate science. I really don't, because I don't know much about it.
Well, you should.
But what I do know is that what I've read is that the vast majority of people who study it are in agreement that human beings are affecting
So
it.
I just my recall on a lot of things I read, and this was a while ago, so this is when I first formed my not believing this, I read a shit ton of articles. Can't recall the data because, like I said, this was
Which articles from who? From who? From Mark Levine? From Glenn Greenwald? Who aren't climate scientists or scientists in the slightest? Hey, but Bill Nye sucks, am I right? Bill Nye sucks because he's not a scientist. But Ben Shapiro, Glenn Greenwald, those people are cool.
something I was super passionate about. It was like somebody posted something and then I went on like a tear reading about it. But it was essentially just noting that in a lot of these studies, like when you go and if we had to pull this up, they're polling, 10,000 scientists that are within a community that is like these .orgs. Do you believe in everything that MediaMatters.org puts out for statistics? Right? That's a political arm of the Democratic Party.
Talking about different subjects.
I know, but
between politics versus science.
But this has been politicized. That's the
Science
thing.
has been politicized.
Yes, and okay, and I agree with you. Science is politicized a lot, and that is a concern. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about that when it comes to the rise of applied postmodernism in the humanities. I'm concerned about that when it comes to the topics of gender. I 100% agree with you. But in none of those domains that are incredibly highly politicized will you get a statistic as high as 97%. You won't get that. You have a statistic as high as 97% when it comes to a consensus on what gravity is or on what cosmology actually means. You won't get, like, that is an incredibly high percentage. should listen to that because that's insanely high. You can't even get that. You can't even get that high percentage of Americans to believe that the Earth revolves around the sun. You can't get that. That's crazy. Learning and having an opinion is just an expression of the ego. As we all know, the ego stems from a limited perception and a refusal to let go of the false self. I love Candler. Candler's fantastic. You really need to have a YouTube channel, dude. You're legitimately like I legitimately considered you as one of the smartest people I knew in high school. So I'm surprised you haven't tried to make a name for yourself. Yeah, so the self is a false concept. I agree. That is a concept in philosophy. The self is, there's no such thing as the self because there's no concentrated point in the brain in which all of your ideas come from. There's no architect of all of your ideas unless you're considering the brain the architect, which obviously it is, but no isolated point within the brain is an illusion.
It has. Global warming in particular has been politicized. 100% it has been politicized. Right. That's the whole reason I felt.
Yeah, which is why you can make a good argument that Al Gore is for us. But that doesn't change the fact that 97% of climate scientists believe that climate change is real and it's affected by humans. So much so to the point we should be concerned.
Fell down this dark hole one night reading about it. And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't really care.
It has been politicized,
Yeah.
but I think that's also maybe why you're saying you don't agree with it so quickly.
Right.
Because
I
it's,
told you that's why I read
it's
it.
an ideological right-wing point.
Right.
Global warming isn't real.
Right.
If you're one of those,
Thank you. Look at Joe Rogan. Dude, Joe Rogan is on spot. So she says climate change has been politicized. So it's a left position to say that climate change is real. And Joe Rogan snaps back. Exactly. And it's a right-wing position to say it's not. And you're adopting the right-wing position, which 99% of your beliefs are right-wing.
those people that think global warming isn't real, you're almost always on the right.
Right. And that's fine. But I'm telling you that, like, again, I didn't do a deep dive on all of this because I read about it because forefront of discussion. So I read about it all night. And my conclusion was that they started pulling up all of these studies and the person that, did this and I did a deep dive on, and they started showing how like these community of scientists were in fact somewhere behind that .org, someone that was being funded. So to me, the issue got too politicized for me to believe warming was something that was going to wipe out the world. Now,
scientists
I
get
don't.
Too politicized for her to believe that it's real.
funded. That is a fact.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that the funding affects the scientific research
Right.
and which they all agree on. And this is universally across the entire planet.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, again, as I said, the amount of money that you would get if you prove confidently and irrefutably that climate change is not a real thing, you will be a millionaire.
Thousands and thousands of scientists would not stake their reputation on false data. What they're saying is not that the only reason why the world is getting
Yeah, you have to believe that there's a giant conspiracy among scientists to just collectively agree that climate change is real.
warm is because human beings. That the only reason why the climate isn't totally static the rest of eternity is
Right.
because of human beings. What they're saying is we are negatively impacting our own environment, and
Yeah.
we're doing it because we
Just
have
existing, we
poor
negatively
technology
impact.
and we use coal
Yeah.
and fossil fuels and emissions, and we're raising the CO2. This is based on data,
Yeah.
and this is something that you can look at. You can look at the data and follow where they're getting this information from, and follow how they're making these conclusions, and follow the vast majority
Right.
of these
Well, look,
brilliant people who
I
study
was a
this shit
per-
their whole life.
Yeah, exactly. Look, if I was a person that was putting forth policy on climate change, or if I was a person that put out my opinion publicly on climate change, I would do all of that. I'm just not.
Wait, what? What did she just say right now?
Put policy on climate change, or if I was a person that put out my opinion publicly on
If I was a person who put out my opinion publicly on,
climate change, I would do all of that. I'm just
I would do all of that. What did she just do a few seconds ago, a few 10 minutes ago? What did she just do? She gave out her opinion on climate change publicly on the most popular podcast on the planet.
not.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that you're a very smart person,
Yeah.
and people listen to you, and they're going to listen
All right, Joe, you're being nice.
to you for a long time.
But this is what I hate. This is what I hate.
But hold
Because
on,
then it's
let me
like,
finish
Dennis,
what
you
I'm
have to have a
saying.
formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion on
Yeah.
everything. What you do have to
Yeah, exactly. You don't. So don't say anything about it.
have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're
But I
talking
just said that. I said that
But
to the
you
entire
didn't-
time. I said
you
this
don't
would. I
You
don't believe it.
believe
And you asked me, and I said this wouldn't be the hill I chose to die on because I don't.
Right,
I don't
but why
follow
even
it.
say you don't believe in it?
Because I just personally, if you.
How about not have a belief until you
So
really
okay,
look
so
at the
you would
data?
prefer my language as opposed to admitting that I do not know this. I wouldn't die, so I've never made a public statement. You, if I just started by saying
I don't know.
I have no opinion.
No,
Yes, that's perfectly fine. Just say, I don't know. We really need to normalize that. Just say you don't know. It's perfectly fine. There's tons of things I don't know. At the beginning of this live stream, I specifically said I don't know much about the economy. When we were talking about, I think we were looking into how much power the president had over the economy. I specifically said, I don't know. I don't know. And I looked it up. That's perfectly fine. Normalize that. It's okay to say you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You say
But I said I didn't know.
No, you say I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. You're
Yeah, exactly. She said she didn't know, but she also said 100% climate change is not a thing, and she laughed it off.
saying really clearly that you don't think it's real.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it would be the same if I said to you like, oh, do you believe in God, right?
No, I would say I don't know.
You would say so. That's I feel like this is sort of like linguistics, though.
No, I would say I don't.
Because he's a pussy. Because he's a pussy.
No,
Okay.
I always say I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm agnostic.
Most people say like I believe it or I don't, right? So it's like if you say
I think a lot of people say they don't know.
Okay, I think believe is definitely word associated with God. But
Right,
so
but a lot of
if
people
I
say
say
they
like
don't
this, but if
know
you
if
say
they
I don't
believe
believe
in
in God, and then somebody starts saying, oh, you need to formulate it, it's like I just don't believe in
No,
it.
no, you don't, because God is not scientific data.
Right.
There's a big difference between measuring the CO2 levels in the atmosphere and
Which is why, because it is not scientific data, you shouldn't make policy out of it. We should have the separation of church and states. We shouldn't make opinions, moral opinions, based on a concept that we cannot know 100%, or not even 100%, 99%, 80%, 90%, whether or not it's real. And yet, 72% of Americans are overwhelmingly Christian. Crazy.
and deciding whether or not there's an afterlife.
Right. I'm sorry that I just don't believe in global warming. I'm happy to.
You're allowed to not believe in it.
That's all I'm
But
trying
my
to say. I
problem
don't
is
believe in it. I have not.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, but
and you're a very bright person.
But if somebody had asked me, like at a place where I'm influencing on a college campus, what's your opinion? I would say I have none.
I bet you would say,
What are you talking about? Oh,
I just don't believe. I don't believe in global warming. I'm happy to.
you're allowed to not believe in it.
That's all I'm
But
trying
my
to say. I
problem
don't
is
believe in it. I have not.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, but
and you're a very bright person.
But if somebody had asked me, like at a place where I'm influencing on a college campus, what's your opinion? I would say I have none.
I bet.
if she were asked on a college campus where she has influence on her opinion, she would say she has none. On the most popular podcast on the planet, she just laughed off the idea of climate change. And she's saying this?
Bet you would say, I don't believe in it, like you just did.
That is absolutely
I
not.
love,
That's not
I love this part. I
You're
love
allowed
this
to
part.
not believe in it.
that's all I'm
But
trying
my
to say. I
problem
don't
is
believe in it. I have not.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, but
and you're a very bright person.
But if somebody had asked me, like at a place where I'm influencing on a college campus, what's your opinion? I would say I have none.
I bet you would say, I don't believe in it, like you just did.
That is absolutely not.
But you
That's
just
not
did
true. There are so many instances we could watch. Just like you can ask Dave Rubin when he asks me a question, I say I don't have an opinion
About a different subject,
But yeah,
perhaps.
because you and I are having a conversation one on one. I'm not sitting here to try to. I don't go on campus talking about global warming because I don't have an opinion on it. But
Okay.
if you press me and ask me if I believe in it, no, I don't really believe in it. But could I go deep dive and learn that perhaps I'm wrong? Sure. I personally am inclined to believe that a lot of those studies are manipulated. As I said during the one night that I did deep dive on it.
All right. See you, Nick. Loved having you. It was great. Have a good day. It's like, what is it, 5 p.m. over there? It's about to be 5 p.m. over there in Australia, in kangaroo worlds. Go have fun. Some comments. These conservative girls talk about conservative values. Why not just get married and be a housewife? I can understand if they are libertarian, but yeah. Yeah, so I'm actually reading her book right now. Where are you? I'm reading a book right now called Blackout. There you are. I'm about halfway through it. I was supposed to finish it because I'm reviewing it for Atheist Republic. And it's actually not like, it's not crazy right now. That's the thing. So like when they write a book, they'll give out their most reasonable opinions so they don't come off as crazy. But then when you look at videos of them that are being exposed, like this one, realize, oh, they actually believe some pretty crazy stuff. But yeah. But she has strong opinions on BLM, but doesn't appear to be applying the same approach here. Yeah, cognitive dissonance is crazy. She seems incapable of conceding an arguments, not healthy at all. Yeah, like it's fine. That's another thing we need to normalize. Be saying, you know what, I think you have a strong argument. Like this is a case where at the sounding like I have an inflated opinion of myself, if I were in her position, I would say, you've actually convinced me, because Joe Rogan has such a strong argument against her right now. He has backed her up into a corner that is embarrassing for her to be in, that I would be like, holy Christ, you're right. There's no way she's thinking in her head, I'm destroying Joe Rogan. There's no way. There's no way.
When they showed like all the pieces of evidence, whatever, it just seemed a little shady, and I felt it was politicized. But I think that I have a right to say that I don't believe in something, but I also don't know. And that's what I said to you. I don't believe in it, but I wouldn't die on this hill. I don't know enough about it.
You
I
did
don't
say you wouldn't
Why? Well, whatever. I'm just gonna play it.
die on this hill.
Yeah.
But you also said you don't believe in it, and you state the reason why, because you think it's a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the truth. What do you want me to do? Want me to lie to you?
No, it's okay, but
I'm not
I think
sitting here
it's a
saying like.
complicated issue. It's
But
very, very
it may be
complicated.
complicated. That's fine. But what do you want me to lie to you and
No,
say
I
I'm
just
not a
think-
politician? You want me to? You should
No.
the correct term. Like I feel like this is like the editing people do. Like when they're like, oh, upon the ask question, you don't know this is. I'm not running for office. I'm answering.
Right.
I'm talking to you. I don't believe in it.
I
mean,
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I can't be fake. This
I'm
is
not
my number
asking
one
you.
problem in life is I can't be fake, and I know that you're pressing me here and that you want me to adjust and to say like I do not have an opinion. But I'm not like a politician. I'm telling you I don't believe in it. Could I change my perspective
But
and
listen,
believe
if
in
you're
it a
just a
year after I
regular
read stuff?
person, if you're just a regular person, you said I don't believe in it, I'd probably go, all right. The problem is you're not. You're a very
But I'm
influential
aware. But
person.
I'm aware when I'm on stage, when I'm on my YouTube channel, there's no videos of Candace Owens talking about global warming. I'm aware of that.
There is
Well, there is now.
now.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Oh.
gonna be true. I just, yeah,
And
exactly.
people are gonna be mad at me.
It's weird
You're
'cause-
fucking
yeah,
global
yeah.
warming shill. Global
You
warming's
know what's
fake.
funny? This feels so like we're not on the internet right now. It's like I still
know,
don't
it's
feel like we're on the
a
internet. This is the problem. Yeah. Well, like if you and I were on college campus, I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I don't
Meanwhile,
have informed discussion.
I
Like,
don't know
yeah.
jack shit about global warming. I
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
I think the real fear is not even global warming. The real fear is the ice age is the most terrifying thing that can happen to human beings.
Yeah.
When that shit happens, everybody dies.
Yeah, I know.
Global warming, you just move.
Yeah, that one's interesting. Global cooling. There are expected ice ages to occur in the future.
Finland.
Yeah, I think that the real thing that
Could be
people are
everything.
concerned about is like just beyond any of that stuff. I don't know. I think that there's like more concerns in society. Like I personally think that some scientists started talking about global warming and it got politicized. They figured
Like what's a bigger concern than climate change in society? Annoying college students that think you should be silent for having right-wing opinions? Yeah, that's a problem. And I talk about it. It's not as big of a problem as climate change.
there was another way to extract human beings' money because of fear. That's my opinion.
I think there's probably some truth to that. There's
And then they said
definitely
we're going to find
people.
our core scientists that agree with everything. They say this is proven that Harvard studies have been incorrect because they were being funded by certain political interest groups. So I'm not
Harvard
inclined to
studies
pull up
on-
some.
Harvard studies have been proven incorrect political interest groups. Would you say the same thing about the Roland Fryer study when it comes to whether or not black people are being disproportionately shot by police, in which he claims that they're not? We can play this game all day, dude.
thing on and I'm blanking, it'll come back to me in a second, but there were Harvard papers that have been funded by certain researchers that are trying to get a certain political position out, and it causes mass fear.
Which is a problem. Yes, I agree. That is a problem. Which is why the peer review system is so important.
People are willing to spend their money a
It's
certain way.
entirely possible.
It is, it's
People
real.
are
That's very
flawed.
real. People are flawed. So I'm
Yeah.
not inclined when someone pulls up an article and says, look, 10,000 scientists, I err on the side of, I don't know those scientists are, I don't know what this organization is funded by, so I'm going to stick by my guns and say I don't really believe in it yet. Now, if I decide I'm going to run for office and I got to make a decision on the atmosphere and what we're going to do about global warming and CO2 emissions, you better believe I will be fully ready to discuss it. I'm not going to make a YouTube video and just on the outskirts of it. I don't do that, right?
Mhm.
But if you and I are having a discussion, sorry, I don't believe in it. Like, I don't know what to say.
I would say
Open to
again-
learning.
Okay.
Open to learning.
Okay.
Always open to learning. I've been wrong before. I was
Open to learning. She's open to learning, guys.
a liberal 2 years ago,
She laughed it off. She laughed off the idea that climate change is a real thing and it is caused by humans, but she's open to learning.
3 years ago, so that's not a problem. I'm open to learning, but I'm not going to pretend say something that feels inauthentic. And what I wanted to say there was I don't believe in it.
It's just one of those things that it's a real right wing talking point.
Oh, that was quick. All right. Edward Snowden is great. It's interesting. What do we got? We survived that last ice age, and we have better heaters now. Yeah, we do. I got a heater right next to me, actually. It's been cold. Candler, how cold has it been in your house? It's been pretty cold. Jesse Lee Peterson, what? When was this? Destiny
We have a
versus
White Lives Matter
Jesse-
organization. It's called the United States of America. Nobody in the United States.
Whoa, what was that?
We have a White Lives Matter organization. It's called the United States of America. Nobody.
All right, yeah. So Destiny goes pretty crazy. I like Destiny like 60%, but he says some pretty crazy stuff.
In the United States. Say amen. Let me hear it. I love it. Yep.
Beta!
I love it. I love it.
That's fantastic.
Testing 1 2 testing 1 2. You guys hear
All
me?
right,
Testing 1 2. Hey everybody.
First
If we can
Amendment,
have everybody please take a
COVID,
seat.
time
We're about to start in a few
polls.
minutes. Can you get the people take a seat? Hey, testing 1 2.
Oh,
testing,
Black
1 2.
Lives Matter. Let's do this.
I got to move on because of time. I want to ask Sherman, I want to talk about the cops and the mob.
Like Destiny and Vosh, even though I disagree with him a lot, they're legitimately smart. They've thought about this quite a bit. So I respect them for that much. Unlike someone like Candace Owens. Skip the Civil War. I like Bomar too. Bomar's great. So are the Impractical Jokers. What pushed you to try and become a vegan, dude? Or who? So it's actually mainly Cosmic Skeptic. So let's watch Cosmic Skeptic's video recently. I think I love this guy. So Cosmic Skeptic is the one person I've said the story aloud a few times in which there are very few okay, so people say that I'm pretty well spoken, that I can what would be the best way to describe it, that I can present myself pretty well, I can describe myself pretty well, I can describe my positions pretty well. I've been told this, and I'm inclined to believe them at the risk of, as I said before, sounding like I have an inflated opinion of myself. But the one person that I've spoken to, and I've stumbled over my words, stumbled over coffee tables, metaphorically speaking, because of just how smart they were as cosmic skeptics. So I saw this guy at Logical. I think it was like 2018, Logical 2018 or 2019. Yes. So it's this guy. So it was this year. So I saw him present at this Lodge event in LA 2018, and Alex O'Connor was so incredibly smart, so bright, and he impromptu made a Q&A session for like 30 minutes of his speech rather than just talk about his speech for 30 minutes longer. And so like he was just so smart, and it blew my mind. So when I talked to him IRL, I was just stumbling over my words, and I couldn't keep up with it. So this is the guy that
cognitive dissonance
that I love. I love this guy. Telling a minority that they are well-spoken is a marginal tactic that alt-right racists use to keep the brand down. That is 100% true. So according to the woke left, if you say that a POC is well-spoken, that is racist, because that assumes that the standard should be based on what the white person says. So their expectation is that the person that is saying that the POC is well-spoken is that he is introducing a standard that is provided by the white person, saying that the way that the white person speaks is normal, and if he sees a POC speaking anywhere near the standard of the white person, that therefore he is well-spoken. That is racist, according to them, according to the crazy woke left.
Is the state of inconsistent.
So this guy was the one who says, regardless, I'm happy. No, dude, you actually. So your video on how would aliens treat us was actually like incredibly good. So don't worry about it, man. You are actually fantastic as well, which is why you need to get bigger, because you have some great arguments.
Thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as related to behavioral decisions and attitude change. If you hold two beliefs that contradict each other, you're suffering from CD. If you hold a belief that something is wrong and yet justify doing it, or something just like it, despite simultaneously knowing you shouldn't, you're suffering from CD. If you think that it's, wrong for any person under any circumstance to so much as hit a dog that they're looking after, and yet simultaneously justify literally gassing pigs to death in a chamber of carbon dioxide so that you can eat a sandwich that you won't remember eating, you're suffering from CD. In all my 4 years or so of professionally tackling religious fanatics in the public sphere, I have genuinely never encountered more dogma, more ignorance, more evil, and indeed more cognitive dissonance than I have coming from people who, despite knowing the unimaginable horrors necessary to produce it, just can't give up cheese, or just can't give up eggs. Well, if that's you, someone who sees veganism as some kind of fringe, woke, funny and mockable philosophical position to be treated as nothing more than a laughingstock for when you get bored, it's time to snap out of it. Okay, we can either have a grown-up conversation about this or not. But if you're unwilling,
I don't know if this is because I'm Mexican and there's a huge cultural tradition of eating meats in the Mexican community. In whether we're talking about carne asada tacos or machaca tacos, it'd be so incredible if I told my parents, "Hey, I'm going vegan," and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" It'd be like coming out as gay. Not as bad, obviously, but it'd be one of those things. I don't know if that's maybe part of the reason why I'm just not biting the bullet on veganism, or if I'm hoping secretly that Armin Navabi is right.
forgive ethically seriously. Okay, you can giggle all you like about bacon, though, as if it's still 2009. But while you do, consider that since this video began, 174,000...
All right, I don't like that argument. I don't like what you just said.
Grown-up conversation about this or not. But if you're unwilling, forgive me for not taking you ethically seriously. Okay, you can giggle all you like about bacon, though, as if it's still 2009. But while you...
Okay, if arguments aren't contingent on what year they're made, yes, sure, the popularity of the arguments could be contingent on when they are made, but the strength of those arguments are not. Just the beans, Vincent. Yeah, that's my culture.
You do consider that since this video began, 174,869 chickens, 4,150 pigs, 9 donkeys, 14 horses, and 2,772,879 fish have all been slaughtered, so that people like you can satiate your addiction to the taste of their flesh and continue to point your greased-up finger at the vegans.
Yeah, so I think you have to consider the function of the morals we have for our own survival, sure, but in the same way that morals are contingent on the zeitgeist, in which they are contingent based on whether or not we can evolve past previous impulses. You could say you can make the same argument for veganism. Sure, the concept of us eating meats was contingent on morals that are placed based on what we were in pre-parochial times. But we evolved past that. We are now at a point where the moral zeitgeist has progressed enough to the point where we can recognize that eating meats is a bad thing and that it causes more suffering in the world. We can say no to that. And it is in our best interest, if we want to be morally consistent, to be vegan. So I think that would be the counter argument to that. So you might have a counter argument to what I just said. So I'll read out loud what you said later on. I don't know, man. I think there's another option. Alex is presenting this like there's only gassing pigs or going vegan. I don't like it. Yeah. So Alex is pretty catastrophic about this. I'll admit that. He's closer to being right than the nuanced position. So if the nuanced position is saying, okay, yeah, sure, they do slaughter animals in a way in which we can scientifically measure their grief, the fact that they experience pain, we can measure that, sure. But at the same time, the fact that they are even in that position in the first place is not a byproduct. Like, they wouldn't have existed in the first place if we didn't breed them. So that would be the sort of Armin Navabi argument where they wouldn't exist in the first. What we should be focused on is reducing their pain as opposed to just going vegan. You could make that argument, and I think that would be a pretty good argument. But in Alex's view, and I'd have to agree with him, if we were vegan, then none of this would even be a problem in the first place. Hey, hi, AG. How you doing? Aga. How do you pronounce it? Is it AGA or is it Aga? In a modern, populated world with less scarcity, is morality and compassion even necessary? I don't think scarcity is actually even a problem. If livestock could speak, would we eat them? It'd be harder to. I will be right back, people. All right, what do we got? Meat is superior for athletic performance. There are plenty of minerals that you can't get in large enough amounts from plants. We need Star Trek replicators ASAP. Meat seems like it is on its way. How many steps is it from a replicator? AGA is an acronym, stands for Another Godless Atheist. I don't know that. I can't get over our bias for suffering. Why is life that feels suffering more important than life that doesn't? Doesn't seem rather self-centered, as in We care about life that is more like ours. I mean, yeah, you could probably say that's actually a bias. The effects on slaughterhouse-working. 1, PTSD, true. 2, doubling, true. 3, desensitization, 100% true. Symptoms of PTSD is found if veterinarian putting down in veterinarian putting down animals. Found if not only do we hurt animals, but we hurt people as well.
And for the rest of us, however, who are genuinely willing, 2,772,807 wild fish have all been slaughtered so that people like you can satiate your addiction to the taste of their flesh and continue to point your greased up finger at the vegans for being too extreme. For the rest of us, however, who are genuinely willing to take up the mantle of personal responsibility and follow our most deeply held ethical principles without exceptions for the sake of a sausage roll, I want to highlight some of the most obvious abuses of moral logic that I've seen on the topic of animal abuse and show you why it's just so insidious. Right now, you may be someone who has simply never considered it before, and if that's so, don't feel bad. My anger isn't directed at you. It's not your fault that we live in a society that's normalized animal cruelty to such an extent that we don't even notice it happening all around us. It's really not your fault. But allow me to clue you in, and hopefully that can change. And animal cruelty is truly everywhere. Right? It's a strange and regrettable irony that when I complain about dead animals being present in food and on billboards and in people's shoes, in chairs that I'm forced to sit on, in guitar straps and phone cases and bags and wallets and roads and cosmetics, the only legal physical currency of the United Kingdom, that I'm the one who's forcing other people to encounter an observation that they don't like. Right? I find it funny if it wasn't so sad, especially given just
That's
how
100% true. So let's look at an instance, actually, of this occurring firsthand. So, Alex O'Connor, the guy that I'm showing off right now. Oh, hey, look at this. Dude, thank you for... I didn't know you did this. Thank you so much. Look at that. I got 3 notifications. Please say I pushed you towards veganism. All right. Well, I did, actually. I said that you provided good arguments. So, if we go on Alex O'Connor. There you are. This guy. He actually got into an argument with Matt Dillahunty about this. There you are. And I like the video. I like the comment because it's a good comment. So he says, so this video that we're watching, right? Wow, it has a lot of dislikes. 6.8 thousand likes, about 650 dislikes. So he said, it's been out for 3 minutes and already has a higher dislike ratio than usual. Thanks for the support. So Matt Dillahunty says, yeah, maybe stop acting like what happens in the first 3 minutes is an appropriate sample size. It's not sex. Alex responds, what? The point is that people are disliked before having an opportunity to watch the whole video at a disproportionate rate to usual, and that the people who are doing so are being irrational. Is that wrong? And he says, and Matt Dillahunty responds, is that surprising? Someone dislikes my videos the instant they're live. People don't like me, and people don't like you. Okay, that has nothing to do with what the original argument was, but don't pretend they need to watch the entire video to accurately grasp that you're sermonizing about the same thing you've been saying over and over again. And Cosmic Skeptic has the perfect argument against this. Perfect argument. Perfect argument against this. Matt, I've made 7 videos about veganism. How many have you made about atheism? Talking over and over about animal abuse. And so the animal abuse is over. Thanks. That's 100% true. So in the context of atheism, so many videos are made, right? So Matt Dillahunty has made like 1 million videos about atheism, and yet nobody would accuse him of, or a shit ton of people would accuse him of shoving his views down of his views on atheism down their throats. But he wouldn't say that, right? He's just saying, oh, I'm secularism. I'm just promoting free thinking. I'm just promoting atheism. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Same thing with veganism. But the difference is that he's only made 7 videos on veganism. And yet those 7 videos were enough to trigger Matt Dillahunty. Matt Dillahunty was triggered. It's like, oh my God, you're sermonizing 7 videos. You are sermonizing about the same thing you've been saying over and over again. About you, Matt, you've been sermonizing about atheism over and over and over again.
Those same people who levy this accusation against me, feeling they are to be as pushy and loud and forceful and unapologetic as they like when talking about an ethical issue that they agree with, like trophy hunting or dog abuse or bullfighting. And that's what I'm hoping to demonstrate to you in this video, that when it comes to animal cruelty, cognitive is the norm, not the exception. I had the idea for this video when one day I was scrolling through Facebook and came across a post by a page called Lad Bible. Now, they're one of the biggest social media pages on the platform with around 37 million likes, and you'll almost certainly have heard of them, especially if you're in the UK. They're a huge page, basically, that shares a variety of different kinds of content, and the post that I saw was one about animal cruelty. Now, I started taking screenshots every time I saw a popular post about animal cruelty, and noticed that the general reactions and the comment sections seemed to vary massively depending on which species of animal happened to be the victim. Here's a first example. Swan dies of broken heart.
Is that true? Oh, this is interesting. I don't. By the way, I didn't finish this video. I only watched like the first 2 minutes last time.
After Yobs destroy nest and kill unborn cygnets. And Lad Bible captions.
Okay, so what is this on? On a swan.
The heartless teenagers smashed her unhatched eggs with bricks and rocks. Obviously, this is horrible. Like, who would destroy the eggs animal, killing its younglings for no good reason? And the comments agree with me. 96,000 reactions, mostly angry. And the comments, if these words are harsh, I don't care. I hope that someday these teens struggle to have families and think of their actions. Hope they find a little shits.
Whoa, what did you just say?
If these words are harsh.
If these words are harsh, I don't care. I hope someday these teens struggle to have families and then think of their actions. All right, they're just teenagers. Yeah, they're dumb. What they did was disgusting, but they're just teenagers. This is pretty crazy.
I don't care. I hope that someday these teens struggle to have families and think of their actions. Hope they find the little shits responsible for this and throw bricks at their faces. And check it out, this guy on Twitter thinks that we should bring back public hangings for the kids who destroy these eggs.
Okay, so he's probably not being literal about that, Alex. He's probably just
throw
memeing.
bricks at their faces. And check it out, this guy on Twitter thinks that we should bring back public hangings.
Okay, so yeah, I doubt he sincerely believes that we should legitimately bring back public hangings because of this instance of swans.
For the kids who destroyed these eggs. Okay, understandable outrage, perhaps. But now, here's a fact. That is not an opinion or a hot take, but simply a true fact. Every year, around 7 billion male chicks are killed immediately at birth by the egg industry, either by gassing them or grinding them up alive in an industrial billion.
Oh, he
male
just gave
chicks are
a
killed immediately
trigger
at birth.
warning. Trigger warning.
By the egg industry, either by gassing them or grinding them up alive in an industrial macerator. Egg-laying hens are genetically engineered differently to the chickens used for meat, and so male
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy to watch?
layer chickens are totally useless since males don't lay eggs. This means that their first and last experience of this world is being crushed or gassed to death, and this chick culling occurs in all industrialized egg production, including free-range and organic eggs. It's not like we need eggs to be healthy, right? What's the only thing that you can genuinely only get from eggs and not another source? Well, the way they taste. 7 billion chicks, literally ground up alive, or in the words of the British Egg Information Service, humanely gassed every year for the sake of taste pleasure. And not only do people fail to condemn this, they continue to be the very cause of it happening by continuing to purchase eggs. But some teenagers destroy the eggs of one swan, and everybody goes crazy. Cognitive dissonance. Here's another one. Bullfighting will return to Spain with strict new rules. The sport will continue despite the hopes of animal rights campaigners that the coronavirus pandemic would end the tradition. Again, thousands of mostly angry reactions. Let's look at the comments. This world is so messed up that people still want to see animals.
Okay, so let's try to argue against this, right? I like Alex. I think what he said is just mostly true, but let's try to argue against this just for the sake of playing devil's advocate. Okay, you could say, sure, what they're saying is an example of cognitive dissonance in which the reaction that you see towards things like bullfighting isn't the same as that you see towards just generally speaking eating meat. But you could also say, well, this is progress. This is at least progress. And you shouldn't be so catastrophic about the fact that even though the people aren't so hardcore and anywhere near as hardcore vegan as you are now, at least we're demonstrating progress. At least we're showing that people are starting to recognize that there are animals out there, that it is a possibility that animals are suffering needlessly out there. That is a realization that people are having. So if anything, we're actually going in the right direction. So you acting so catastrophic and in a way in which you're acting as if nobody recognizes the horrors of eating meat or recognizes the horrors of the way that animals are being treated is just counterproductive, because you're turning so many people away from veganism, because so many people are seeing how catastrophic you are and how condescending you are, and they're saying, I don't want to be a part of this. This guy's just ridiculous. This guy is just a woke, crazy loon. Then you might be doing more damage to the cause than good if you were to just be realistic, saying, yeah, sure, look, veganism is the righteous choice. It is the moral choice. I agree. And people are turning their heads towards it. People are starting to change their minds about animal cruelty, evidenced that now people are changing their opinions on things like bullfighting. But because you are so catastrophic and so crazy about it and so freaking, anti anybody who eats meat, you're turning, you're putting a sour taste in the mouth of anybody who thinks of veganism. That's a counter argument. I wouldn't say I agree with that, but that's a potential counter argument that you could throw towards someone like Alex O'Connor. What do we got? I'm not eating food just for taste pleasure. Suffering is another symptom of the false self. Sure, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't care about it.
Torture, fox hunting, bullfighting, various festivals that glorify animal abuse and cruelty, sick people with no heart and no morals. It's disgusting. How can anyone think it's sport? Barbaric evil, torture of animals. This is why I would never go to Spain. Yes, good idea. Stay in the UK, where we would never force cattle to run around
No, you wouldn't go to Spain because some people do bow hunting. That's a dumb thing to say.
in an arena while being fought by
That's like saying I wouldn't go to the United States because there's police brutality there. All right, most people don't engage in that.
a human. Stay in the UK, where we treat our cattle with decency by forcibly impregnating them, separating them from their wailing children, bolt gunning 70,000 of those calves in the head every year, and killing them for veal, taking the mother's milk, and then shipping her off to a slaughterhouse to have
It's crazy stuff, isn't it? Crazy stuff.
her throat slit for the sake of a burger.
I should have put a trigger warning that's not at 1.75 speed.
Hopefully the animal protein will give you enough energy to continue complaining about how poorly Spain treats its bovines. Of course, Lab Bible also makes posts who have been abused and killed for the sake of being tasty, and I'm sure that this receives just as much condemnation. McDonald's is adding breakfast rolls with bacon, sausage, eggs, and cheese tomorrow. That's cheese from the dairy cows that we just talked about, along with the eggs necessitating the
Sure, but those are two completely different things. Yes, you can recognize that this is why, like, this is part of the problem that I see with what he says, where I think he's right. I think he has the convincing arguments, but when he compares bullfighting and the horrendous stuff that he's showing towards McDonald's is having another view, yeah, it's one, it's not as effective, and two, you can totally understand the cognitive dissonance in a way towards you can say that it's actually not cognitive dissonance at all. Because one is all right, let's just play the video.
Hopefully the animal protein will give you enough energy to continue complaining about how poorly Spain treats its bovines. Of course, Lab Bible also makes posts relating to cows who have been abused and killed for the sake of being tasty, and I'm sure that this receives just as much condemnation. McDonald's is
Well, most people don't know about that stuff, though. And as you said at the beginning of the video, you don't blame them. Yeah, sure. But if you recognize that and you understand, okay, most people don't know this, then why are you expecting an equal reaction from this than of the reaction of bullfight?
is adding breakfast rolls with bacon, sausage, eggs, and cheese tomorrow. That's cheese from the dairy cows that we just talked about, along with the eggs necessitating the gassing or maceration of male chicks, and bacon and sausage from a pig, most likely in this country killed in a gas chamber, which simultaneously, by the way, acidifies the liquid in their eyes and throat whilst choking them to death. The caption? Breakfast just got a whole lot tastier. Love eyes emoji, licking lips emoji. Give me a break. The only comment that I could find complaining about this was someone upset that they no longer sell a steak, egg, and cheese
I shouldn't have laughed at that. That was pretty crazy.
bagel. Cognitive dissonance. Okay, let's take a slightly different turn. UK Zoo might have to euthanize its animals after being forced to close. Thousands of mostly sad and angry reactions. I mean, I'm not sure what the problem is. I was under the impression that it wasn't wrong to kill an animal as long as it had a good life and was well looked after.
Yeah, I get it, but again, the context is different. I think you're right. Yes, they should think in the same way that you're thinking, but because the context is so different, most people don't believe that. And the argument against you that could be employed is that because you're presenting the situation as so these people are terrible, most people probably wouldn't want to join you.
Before being slaughtered. People have changed their mind on this. This commenter says, shocking, death should never be an option unless the animal's in extreme pain that won't heal or get better. If it bankrupts them,
Well, I hope this guy's vegan.
it bankrupts them. This is illegal. That's right. No excuse for taking the life of an animal that doesn't need to die. Unless it's a pig, or a cow, or a chicken, or a duck. Well, I think you get the picture. Right, but here's some better news. Iceland to donate profits of penguin biscuits to Chester Zoo after adopting penguins. The caption, you can help save the zoo.
I have less than 5% body fat. Should I be concerned about going vegan? Should I? I'll look this up later. Let's finish this video.
By buying this snack. That's right. You can now help penguins by buying a biscuit containing milk from an industry that abuses and kills cows. How heartwarming to be given the opportunity to save some animals by signing the death sentence of others. Of course, cows are cows and penguins are penguins, and that makes all the difference. Cognitive dissonance. Here's something more local. In Oxford, there's a large meadow called Port Meadow, where you can find cows and horses going about their business. Unfortunately, it also has a problem with people littering, and a little while ago, the Oxford City Council made this Facebook post. Litter kills. This 7-month-old calf died after eating rubbish left on Port Meadow. Take your litter home with you, or face a £150 fine. And the local community were understandably outraged. Yeah, you know what else kills cows? Killing cows. 70,000 calves are killed each year in the UK alone. We can eat veal. And that's done on purpose, right? And it's done by the same people prodding the angry react button in response to people being so heartless as to leave their litter in a field for a calf to eat. I know that I'd much rather be that calf.
Yeah, so everything that he's saying is true. But what I'm worried about is that the way he is saying it is just not effective. That's what concerns me. Is that it's just simply not effective. All right, we're done with this video. We get the idea, right? What do we got? Oh, let's watch some Vosh. What has Vosh done recently? Hunter Biden leaks. Suffering. So guys, in the comment section, let's do a few more videos and then I'll call it a night. What should I discuss? Oh, Borat 2 is really funny. What has he said about Borat 2?
My beautiful friends, hello. You know the drill. No chat to my side means that this is being recorded off stream. And the reason for that is because I'm going to talk about something that I can't talk about live because I don't want to spoil you for some people. The new Borat movie. I saw it on a television screen and I watched it, and the photons from the screen hit my eyeballs and the whole process, it was fantastic. Anyway, yeah, spoilers. Obviously. The Borat thing out is kind of a political flashpoint. I mean, we're like 2 weeks away from the election, and they drop it a day early to capitalize, I imagine, on the publicity they were getting from the Rudy Giuliani segment. I don't even know if I can show it like on YouTube because it's it's kind of grody looking. But essentially, the gist is that there's a bit in the new Borat movie. Oh, actually, wait, let me back up. For those of you who don't know, the first Borat movie was a Sacha Baron Cohen movie where he pretended to be a wacky foreigner coming here to America to experience American culture. And the point was it was a satire of Americans because the character Borat was able to draw out from his surroundings some really, really despicable behavior. The scene that I remember most clearly from the first Borat movie was the one where he's talking about like executing gay people with some southern guy. Yeah, well, we're trying to do that here too, or something like that, And the fun of the movie is that most of the movie is impromptu. It's done under the guise of a documentary crew live recording this wacko interacting with real Americans.
Pretty much everybody in Borat movie sued Borat. It's crazy. Have you had the Beyond Burger, Vincent? I had it. Beyond Burger. What's that? What is this? Oh, plant-based burger? No, I've never even heard of this. Is it good? Yeah, I'll give it a go.
There's so many angry lawsuits from people who felt their rights had been violated when they were caught doing dumb shit on film. But here we are again. And in the second Borat film, there's a scene towards the end where Giuliani, who's one of Trump's top men, gets interviewed by the co-star of the movie, who's a fake journalist. Essentially, they set this thing up, and she essentially seduces him into going into the back room, and he's like reaching down to his pants, and then they run in and interrupt the skit. Probably for legal reasons. I imagine that if Rudy Giuliani's penis had actually been on screen, there would have been a whole host of in terms of
so that's 100% true. In regards to the movie itself, a lot of people were asking why he didn't wait a bit, probably for legal reasons.
In the movie, things would have gotten a lot more difficult. I don't know if the run-in at that time, right when Rudy had his hands in his pants, was coincidental or what exactly. But whatever the case may be, it was funny. I enjoyed the movie. I didn't like it as much as the first Borat movie. Maybe I'm just, I have less of a sense of humor than I did back when I was younger. But when I was watching the movie, by the way, if you guys want to review or something, fuck you. I'm not a fucking movie reviewer. Go watch the movie, okay? It's on Amazon Prime or whatever. I didn't get paid to say that, but that's where I saw it. But the thing that really struck me as I was watching this was, wow, we really don't have any real left-leaning investigative journalism, do we? Not really. There's a reason for that, of course. When we do it, we get killed. The person who leaked the Panama Papers scandal, trillions of dollars the wealthy are hoarding in offshore accounts illegally. That person fucking died.
Wait, did he just say we don't have any left-leaning investigative journalism?
The thing that really struck me as I was watching this was, wow, we really don't have any real left-leaning investigative journalism, do we?
You think Borat tricking Rudy Giuliani into having sex with his daughter is real left-wing investigative journalism? All right.
Not really. There's a reason for that, of course. When we do it, we get killed. The person who leaked the Panama Papers scandal, the trillions of dollars the wealthy are hoarding in offshore accounts illegally. That person fucking died. They were killed. What was it, a car bomb? Wait, actually, I'm gonna look. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm gonna look that up. Panama Papers journalist killed. It was a car bomb, right? Malta car bomb kills Panama Papers journalist. Yeah. Look, investigative journalism.
So therefore, anybody who's left-wing and who investigates the right wing will die.
But the thing is, we need this, really, really badly, domestically. Just as an optic. Sacha Baron Cohen is a left-leaning dude. That's pretty well known. And Borat is a pretty left-leaning movie series now because it satirizes America, criticizes the racism, the homophobia, the anti-Semitism, all these deep-seated underlying cultural issues. And it's a delight for us to watch. Conservatives, I imagine, either don't like watching it or don't get the joke. I saw Matt Walsh on Twitter literally a couple hours ago. I was doing errands. I was on Twitter, and I saw Matt Walsh saying something like, "The first Borat movie was funny because." Joke, buddy. If you watched the first Borat movie and your takeaway was that the character.
Yeah, Borat himself was not the butt of the joke. Sure, part of it was the fact that he was official water in the United States. That was pretty funny. But also what was funny was the fact that he was getting some people to say really disgusting things. He was like Sacha. That's how Sacha Baron Cohen is so smart. He manages to curate the way he speaks and the way he interacts with people based on what type of person he believes they are, and he manages to get to say crazy stuff.
Borat was the thing being made fun of, then you have exactly the same media comprehension I would expect from a conservative. Thank you. Well done. You really held up to your But man, dude, that investigative journalism thing, I keep thinking about it. Like, that movie team was able to get a fake interview with Rudy Giuliani, got planted cameras, the whole 9 yards, and was able to pretty thoroughly embarrass the man in a way that resonate up until the election. Like, that stuff matters. And it reminds me in a way of Project Veritas, which is, if you look into the life of O'Keefe, the person who heads Project Veritas, this man has turned lying into an art form. Like, literally every single fucking thing this guy has done has been tainted either with outright deception or at the very least a misrepresentative intent. The guy never acts in good faith. But fuck me, is he effective? Project Veritas has captured the attention of so many Americans because they're able to sensationalize, either nothing or kind of bad, but really not as bad as it's being led to, as it's being represented. And millions of people listen to that. And what they do, I need to be perfectly clear, isn't investigative journalism, because Project Veritas isn't journalism. Journalists face consequences when they lie. So if you don't, you're not a journalist. To be clear, you're a disinfo agent or a pundit or a commentator, if you want to be really neutral about it. Project Veritas is not investigative journalism. In a way, Borat kind of is, to an extent. Because while the movie it's goofy, it's not like Borat's not journalism in a traditional sense. But the information that it presents in like a gonzo journalism kind of sense, is in an authentic representation of the thin vignettes that they are able to make. That Rudy Giuliani interview. If you can, as a fake crew, get an interview with Rudy fucking Giuliani, what else could a sufficiently talented team do with enough money? Like, in what other ways can they reveal, inconvenient information or otherwise embarrass people who are making this country worse, the members of the Republican Party in large part? I just think about it, and it's dangerous work. I'm not saying anyone can just get up and do this. You need a lot of startup capital, of course. You need a good legal team. Oh God, and that costs a lot of money. You need institutional legitimacy, because even if you come out with the best expose in the world, it doesn't get taken seriously until it gets picked up by major news outlets. And while places like Fox News will pick up on anything that's presented to them, except for the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was so unbelievable, even they passed up on it. But Fox News will pick up the Project Veritas. But if you want like CNN to talk about something, you can't just be like a basement team. Like, there has to be some kind of legitimacy to it. What I'm essentially saying is, George Soros, you've done so much good funding Antifa. Could you divert some of these funds, throw them towards a crack team of investigative left-leaning journalists who use their time and their...
Yeah, long story short, it was good. Have you considered fascism? Debating conservative hypos. I don't know who Hype House is.
Do you believe in God?
Me? So I'm the more I look at the universe, just the less convinced I am that there is something benevolent going on. So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all powerful and all good, that's not an uncommon pairing of powers that you might
Just basic Voltaire argument.
describe to a creator. All powerful and all good. And I look at disasters that afflict Earth and life on Earth: volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, disease, pestilence, congenital birth defects. You look at this list of ways that life is made miserable on Earth by natural causes. And I just ask, how do you deal with that? So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all powerful or not all good.
How's this? Hacking simulation? Tim Pool debate. Did Tim Pool debate recently? Who did he debate against? Who did... Tim Pool. Did he debate Vash? What? Did he debate someone recently that I didn't know about? I mean, say what you will about Tim Pool, at least he's willing to talk to people. He talked to David Pakman, right? Let's watch that video, actually. I like David Pakman.
Okay, I think we are live on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. I have Tim Pool with me, who hopefully we are also live on your platform soon, Tim. How are things looking over there? Not good. Okay. It's not okay. Well, we'll give Tim a second to get things rolling. I'll just welcome everybody on my YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different stuff, including platforming, censorship, free speech. It's going to be quite a list. And if people aren't a little bit, Tim is working on getting us going on his channel as well.
I'm just going to do a new stream, I guess.
All right, you can go ahead. No problem. So for people, I mean, it kind of works out okay because people are, we'll give people time to get in here. We have a whole bunch of new clips scheduled to go live on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel for the rest of the day. I think there's going to be some good stuff in there that people will like. Many people liking the David Pakman off of social media topic, and I followed up on that on today's program. There's a clip that I think goes live at maybe 10:30 p.m. Eastern related to that. And if there's any ever unified my audience across left and right, it's me saying I might get off of social media. Left and right, absolutely loving that. The typing you hear is Tim Pool, who is no problem. Tim, he is getting himself all good to go so that we can have a conversation on both of our channels and setting up a new stream and all of that stuff. How would you rate it? How's it going, Tim? Like between 1 and 10?
It's going really bad.
I have no idea why it's giving me the business. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. I don't know if it's working.
And are you
I think
connecting
it's
from
working.
OBS?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. And so you've got your YouTube stream address from your Go Live dashboard and the stream key.
Yeah, and it's just. I think we're live. We are live. It's working.
Okay.
I just have to post the link.
Okay, no problem. So
Cool.
we'll give Tim a second to do that.
Well, yeah. Say what you want to say about whatever. While
To an anti-Semitic screed, but I want to make sure you hear all of it. So I'm just gonna wait a second. No, okay, so we're gonna be having a conversation with Tim Pool. Tim Pool is known to some people in my audience and not known to some people in my audience. So maybe we could potentially start there. So I guess Tim, to begin with, like, what are we doing? How did this all happen, and why are we even talking today? Because we had sort of like a Twitter. I don't even know if it's a disagreement, but we had a conversation on Twitter that led to this conversation.
Yeah, so I posted a tweet where I said, I can't really remember, something about why should social media companies be exempt from civil rights? And then you responded with, I think this is a good faith attempt, but a bad take.
Right.
I responded, I don't know exactly what the thread was, but it was essentially, for me, the issue comes about, for one, with the constant talk of censorship on social media and the idea that these platforms have become so powerful they're actually influencing elections. We shouldn't let private companies just do whatever they want. But specifically, there was a story from Motherboard where the lead of the story kind of buried an important issue. It said that Twitter won't use an algorithm to remove white nationalists because it might get Republicans.
Right.
In the story, it said Twitter believes, not believes it's acceptable, but the public finds it acceptable that innocent Muslims are removed from Twitter because they're trying to get ISIS. I personally find it unacceptable.
But they find it unacceptable that Republicans would be sort of caught up in a similar application of a policy to remove white nationalists, not an equal application, you're saying?
Yeah, so we ended up seeing this wave of stories where they said, incorrectly, Twitter won't ban white nationalists. Well, the story was specifically that because white nationalists use Trump rhetoric, if they implemented an algorithm, it would sweep up innocent Republicans. And Twitter said, it was one per employee, I might add, because Twitter's denying this. But the employee said the public wouldn't accept that, so we're not going to do it. And
Okay,
then
so that's their opinion, so to speak.
it was one employee, and I think we should be careful about stuff like that. But if this one employee is to be taken at face value,
I'll probably just watch one video and then I'll end the stream. This guy's pretty cool, Lex Ferdman. What do we got? Because I'm gonna do another live stream on Sunday, actually. So for some reason, I just decided to live stream tonight, but I'll do another one on Sunday. Let's see what we got. Because I'm saying is going to happen is that every Sunday I will do a live stream. I'm going to do one actually with Nate Talks next week. So this guy, Nate Talks You, doing a live stream with him next week. He's pretty great. I like him a lot.
Did Nate go SJW like Hunter? Man did a 180 on his beliefs. Sad to literally watch someone's brain cells die. WTF? Who blue-pilled Nate? Didn't know you were such a lefty. Ben is too soft on the left. What the f is this? Just unsub. Didn't realize you were a raging SJW. Bye, Nate. Unsubscribe. Stupid video. I think it's time we had a talk. Hello, everyone. In my previous upload, we looked at 5 Ben Shapiro fails. 4 of those fails being arguments Ben made, and 1 being his method of reasoning. The React video was most...
Let's actually watch that video. Let's watch that video. So this guy, I mean, as you can tell based on what he's uploaded, VidCon, White Knights, and Edict Sarkeesian. Oh, Prager's an idiot. Nice. 8 Anita Sarkeesian fails. Yeah, so he does like anti-SJW content. Just blackface racist. He did an interesting one take on that. But yeah, so he did this video and it got quite.
Down. It's likely that singular they was common even.
So based on what he said, so this is the last video that we'll watch for tonight, and then I'll call it a night. So he made a video so keep in mind, for the longest time he's been making anti-SJW content, and then he decided to do 5 Ben Shapiro fails, and of course audience was like, what? So let's watch this video.
Ben Shapiro is one of the most popular conservative commentators in America. Described by the New York Times as the cool kids philosopher, Ben's made a name for himself as a kind of god, destroying the left one speaking event at a time. He's also known for popularizing the phrase,
facts don't care about your feelings,
framing himself as a messenger of truth, and his opponents as merely being too offended to handle it. Ben's fame and likewise infamy has landed him spots on shows like CNN, News, Real Time with Bill Maher, and PewDiePie's Meme Review.
So PewDiePie asked me to review some memes. Memes are this thing where people put funny stuff on my phone.
With his confident demeanor and quick, eloquent speaking, it's no surprise that Ben's grown such a large following. And, for a time, I was part of it. And I began to analyze Ben's arguments and research his claims to see if they really held up. Here are a few.
Oh, what is this? Look at Twitter. Oh, you sent me the video? Oh, no kidding. Oh my god, 4 hours. Okay, so we won't be able to watch this video tonight. It's unlit. Why is it unlisted? Anti-fascist socialist Vosh joins. Okay, so I'll tell you what. Oh wow, here's Joe Rogan in the background. I'll tell you what. I'll watch this video, and I will review it for Sunday when I do the Sunday live stream. We'll do that. How about that? Okay, so for today, let's watch this one.
Found. These are 5 Ben Shapiro fails. Number 1, same-sex couples in media. When a caller asked Ben how he felt about children's media introducing same-sex couples, Ben gave the following answer.
I think that doing it without warning is a problem, because if you feel that it's sort of a safe space for your kids to watch PBS, right, and that's how the government sort of purports to push it, and then all of a sudden you're confronted with issues that really appropriate for children, because there's no way to explain homosexual couples without the aspect of sexuality coming into play to a certain extent.
I don't know, Ben. Both Arthur and Clifford seem to have done it just fine without getting into that. If a kid's cartoon can easily do it, I don't see why you can't. Here's a simple way to explain why they're together, Ben. 5 words. Because they love each other. Why is that so difficult? Obviously, the relationship is more complex than that, but as you said,
3-year-olds do not know anything. It is your job as an adult to teach them about things that are complex and make complex simple in ways that they can understand. And when it comes to explaining why mom and daddy live together, the answer is they produce babies.
Or you could say, because they love each other. I mean, Ben, when you chose to marry your wife, I'm sure love had a role in that. It wasn't just because of her eggs, right? Plus, if your goal is to avoid the topic of sexuality,
That's
Ben,
pretty
when you chose
great.
to marry your wife, I'm sure love had a role in that. Just because of her eggs, right?
Stephen Molyneux.
Plus, if your goal is to avoid the topic of sexuality, saying because they produce babies may not go the way you like. Children love to ask questions, so if the reason you give for why a man and a woman are together is because they produce babies, their next question will be, how do you produce babies?
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you, so I think we're done here.
So, why not give the 5-word answer instead?
What I do think is sort of a sucker punch is you have a publicly funded television show, and the television show suddenly is pushing a political agenda.
A political agenda? You mean promoting tolerance? That thing shows like Arthur have always...
Yeah, it's one of those things where I recognize the fact that some topics are politicized, but that doesn't change the strength of the arguments that are being provided. Just because they are politicized does not change the fact that, yes, same-sex couples just want to love each other. They want to get married. They want to be normalized, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be. It doesn't matter whether or not it's politicized in that case. You can make the argument and you can discuss academically why it's politicized. That's perfectly fine. It doesn't change the fact that it should just be perfectly normal.
we stood for? An agenda is not an inherently bad thing. When a kid's show talks about colors and the
100%. Yes, exactly. An agenda is not inherently a bad thing. Everybody has an agenda. Just because it is an agenda and just because somebody makes a claim that, oh, that person has an agenda, that does not mean it is a bad thing or that they are wrong.
That is part of an agenda to educate children. So if you have no issue with that kind of agenda, why would you oppose one for reducing bigotry? Research has shown that positive representations of LGBT people in media can lower negative feelings towards them. So as someone who...
First of all, I'm against bullying of any sort. Okay, the idea that somebody would beat somebody up is terrible. Okay, as somebody who's viciously bullied in high school, I'm not a fan of bullying.
Why not support media that could help prevent anti-gay bullying? But Ben's feelings on same-sex couples don't end with media. He also has thoughts on number 2. During an interview with Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro argues that the government should not be involved in marriage. But if they were involved, the government should not treat same-sex marriage and straight marriage equally.
Let's take the predicate that government is now involved in marriage. Should government subsidize gay marriage and straight marriage the same way? Oh, because the only purpose for the government getting involved in marriage is the procreation of the next generation and the raising of that generation. And it's my belief that man and woman do a better job of raising a child and producing children, obviously biologically, than 2 men or 2 women.
So it's Ben Shapiro's belief, or feeling, that a heterosexual couple does a better child than a same-sex couple. But do Ben Shapiro's feelings match up with the facts? No. According to the American Psychological Association, lesbian and gay parents are as likely as heterosexual parents to provide supportive and healthy environments for their children. And, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, causal relationship between parents' sexual orientation and children's emotional, psychosocial, and behavioral development. And if that isn't good enough for you, Cornell University has a webpage featuring 75 studies which all show that same-sex couples make equally good parents as straight couples do. The research on the topic has been consistent for decades now. What more proof do you want? And sure, while same-sex couples can't have children the traditional way, a lesbian couple can have a sperm donation, a gay couple can have a surrogate mother, and both can adopt. Yet take a wild guess what Ben Shapiro's feelings are on same-sex adoption.
We've seen in places like Massachusetts actually shut down if they prefer to hand a baby over to a traditional male-female couple as opposed to a same-sex couple. I think that it is perfectly fine and perfectly rational and in fact good to prefer, all other things being equal, obviously, a male-female couple to a male-male or female-female couple or a single mom. Nothing, I think, remotely controversial about that.
So Ben is arguing that it is fine, rational, and good to favor one group over another, despite all things being equal. That sounds kind of like affirmative action, something which you, Ben, have described as being racist.
So the short answer is yes. I think affirmative action is a racist policy in its general motion. He applied to Yale, didn't get in, and he didn't get in because he was Asian. If he'd been black, he would have gotten in. I mean, that sort of stuff is just racism, pure and simple.
You said earlier that affirmative action as a policy is racist, right?
Yeah. Justice is about you take action, you get what you deserve. Social justice is about you take action, and we may or may not give you what you deserve based on what we think your social group deserves. And that's evil.
So when a university favors a black person over an Asian person, that's racist. But when an adoption center favors a straight couple over a gay couple, that's not homophobia, that's being rational. This blatant contradiction in Ben Shapiro's reasoning should not be surprising, though, as long as you understand. Number 3, how Ben Shapiro forms a conclusion. On more than one occasion, Ben Shapiro has praised the scientific method, which leads to Western civilization.
The vision of modern science.
Until it hits religion.
Idea of hypothesis and hypothesis being rejected by evidence. That sort of science, experimental science, is unique to the West. The development of the scientific method. These are a complex scope and scale that only the West can claim.
So you would think that as a proponent of Western civilization, Ben would apply this method himself when it comes to forming conclusions. However, Ben prefers to use what we'll call the Shapiro method.
You know, this is something I talk about at religious schools, and I've been asked by, rabbis and priests to talk to students about, okay, you have these religious principles. Is there any justification outside of the Bible says so for why this is correct? And as a religious person who's actually thought through his positions, I tend to believe there is. As a religious person, I believe that God didn't create stupid rules. So if you believe that God didn't create rules, then you have to come up with some sort of justification for the rules that are being expressed.
So in this clip, Ben reveals that he does not approach topics objectively. He already has an assumption, a feeling built in. But rather than put aside that feeling in pursuit of nothing but then began to Ben's arguments as a proponent of Western
rules that are being expressed.
So in this clip, Ben reveals that he does not.
Yeah, so his conclusion is God didn't make stupid rules. So the rule set in place is that God already intended it to be smart. So therefore, he has to find the evidence and manipulate the evidence in a way that comports with his already set conclusion.
Approach topics objectively. He already has an assumption, a feeling built in. But rather than put aside that feeling in pursuit of nothing but the facts, he allows it to influence his research to the scientific method. With the scientific method,
Yeah, exactly. So he starts with his conclusion, and everything else in here, he distorts, or at least to line it up in a way that leads towards the conclusion that he already came up with, rather than starting from the question and letting it lead to a conclusion.
only form a conclusion after you've done your research. On the other hand, with the Shapiro method, you start off with a conclusion.
God didn't create stupid rules.
And ignore contrary evidence.
My belief that man and woman do a better job of raising a child and producing children, obviously biologically, than two men or women.
This is not the reasoning of a person after truth. This is the reasoning of a flat earther. But for Ben, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. So how can you trust Ben to give you an accurate view of reality? Now, some of you may argue that while Ben may not be reliable when it comes to issues that conflict with his opinion, outside of that, his arguments are fine. Well, then how about we hear Ben's take on number 4, American slavery. In one episode of his show, Ben Shapiro reported on the 1619 Project, which delves into the history of slavery in the U.S.
1619, as folks are calling it, is a massive retelling of the American story with African Americans appropriately at its center. It is the kind of retelling that continues putting the calls for reparations in the proper context and makes the absence of a national apology all the more galling. So, in other words, it backs Jonathan Capehart's agenda. There was a national apology for slavery. It was called the Civil War, where 700,000 Americans died. So that seems to have been kind of important in American history.
While Ben is correct about roughly 700,000 Americans dying, he fails to mention that that number also includes the Confederate soldiers, those people who were so sorry for slavery, they fought to the death to keep it going. Just because they were the losers doesn't make an apology. Ben's argument is like saying Germany losing World War II is an apology for the Holocaust.
Yeah, that's a bad argument, Ben. Why did you even say that?
Come to think of it, how was the Holocaust apologized for? Well, Germany built memorials and museums, reparations to Israel and Jewish Holocaust survivors, and over the years, various chancellors openly apologized. On the other hand, how did the South apologize for slavery? Oh, by creating...
Like, you can make strong arguments against reparations, but that was the argument they made? Jesus.
Jim Crow laws and exploiting black people through sharecropping and forming the KKK and erecting monuments of those who fought to keep black people in chains. Imagine if, after World War II, Germany put up statues of Hitler, Himmler, Goebbels, and Goring. Would that be a message of remorse, or would that be a message of resentment? Even the apology slaves were supposed to receive, that being 40 acres and a mule, ended up being revoked. But Ben's...
Render unto Caesar. Why I can no super chat? Because I don't have 1,000 subs. So in order for me to be able to have members and to be able to have super chats and to be able to monetize my videos, I need at least a specific amount of watch views, watch hours, I think, which I've hit. So I've hit the watch hours / watch views, whatever it is. But the last thing I need is, so I need at least 1,000 subscribers. Until I hit that, I can't have a super chat. I can't have a subscribe button. Nothing like that. So that's what I need. So now I'm at like, what am I at? 918? 919? What am I at right now? Let me check. I'm at 920. Oh, nice, dude. So I need 80 more subscribers until I can do any of that stuff. So right, can't. So close. We're so close, dude. We're so close.
His lack of knowledge on history doesn't end with the Civil War. He's also ignorant about number 5, language. In September 2019, Merriam-Webster officially added the non-binary use of they to their dictionary. And as expected, Ben Shapiro wasn't too happy about it.
The polarization of the American public continues apace, with woke schools doing their best to ruin every aspect of American life. I'm very excited that Merriam-Webster dictionary has now added the non-binary pronoun they to the dictionary. Because when I look at a book for definitions of words, what I want is a made-up definition of a word that has never been used this way in all of human history, a plural noun used as a singular noun to refer to a singular gender when you use a plural noun.
So, number 1.
Yeah, that's definitely not true. That's 100% not true. So, yeah, so the word they, the pronoun they, has been used in history in order to describe both someone who could potentially be female or male. You don't even have to take into consideration non-binary people. It's just a matter of determining whether or not someone could be potentially female or male. You don't know whether or not they're one way or the other, so you just use they. That's been used previously before. It's been argued for previously before when we're talking about the fact that the Constitution strictly says he. They're trying to change that. There's been books written about that, such as What's Your Pronoun, the history of all that stuff. Yes, that's been well documented. So what Ben Shapiro said right there is just not true. Time to make an iDream shares videos. Go to the army of 11. I say we all drop fancy pronouns and just... Okay.
The word they is not a noun. It is a pronoun. I hate to be pedantic, but if you're going to lecture us about language, you should know, since you kind of write for a living. Number 2, Ben's claim that they, but if you're going to lecture us about language, you should know the distinction, especially since you...
Let's see. I've read... What have I read? I've read The Right Side of History. I've read 3 Ben Shapiro books. So I've read The Right Side of History. I've read his most recent one called How to Destroy America in 3 Easy Steps. I read the one on how to defeat leftists in debate.
Kind of write for a living. Number 2, Ben's claim that they
has never been used this way in all of human history
is objectively wrong.
Yeah,
According to the
that's 100% wrong. Macy's even said that.
Oxford English Dictionary, the singular they can be traced back to 1375, where it appears in the medieval romance William and the Werewolf.
Yeah. Shakespeare said they actually.
Further down, they write, since forms may exist in speech long before they're written down, it's likely that singular they was common even before the late 14th century. And, according to dictionary.com, even Chaucer, Shakespeare, Jane Austen, and
Yeah,
other
there you
writers
go. Shakespeare said it.
the English literary canon use singular they. Even Ben Shapiro himself has used it. But even if they never was used in that manner, so what? Language is literary
What?
canon. Use singular they. Even Ben Shapiro himself
Trump fan. There. Okay.
has used it. But they never was used in that manner, so what? Language is always evolving. The English of the King James
Yeah,
Bible
so it's a matter of whether or not is language prescriptive or is it descriptive. You can have that conversation. Just talk about the history of it.
or of Romeo and Juliet is not the English of today. The word Orwellian didn't exist until 1950, yet you're more than happy to use that. The word libertarian originally stood for a left-wing anarchist, but you don't seem to mind using the new right-wing definition for yourself.
My government policy, because I'm basically a libertarian, is I don't care about that.
Not to mention you began your rant by using the word wokesfold, which didn't exist until 2018. It's almost like your issue isn't really with new words and definitions, but more with who they're empowering.
They, according to the Washington Post, is a liberating pronoun for many non-binary individuals. What the hell is a liberating pronoun? How does a pronoun liberate you?
I'll tell you how, Ben. Because language is power. If you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be a commentator. You wouldn't be an author.
Language is power. You're sounding like a critical theorist right now.
You wouldn't talk about free speech. Let's go back to that word Orwellian, Ben, because you've used it to describe the new meaning of they.
The social engineering of rewriting the meaning of English words is truly Orwellian.
Orwellian is in reference to George Orwell's novel 1984, in which an authoritarian regime develops a new language called Newspeak, which is a horrifyingly limited version of English. In the novel, the character Syme states, "You think, I dare say, that our chief job is inventing new... Not a bit of it. We're destroying words, scores of them, hundreds of them, every day. We're cutting the language down to the bone. Every year, fewer and fewer words, and the range of consciousness always a little smaller. On the other hand, Merriam-Webster hasn't destroyed anything. They've merely included a new usage of a word alongside the ones already there. So with Merriam-Webster expanding language and Ben chastising them for doing so, who's really being Orwellian here? It's not as if English is the first language to have gender-neutral pronouns either. Plenty of languages like Finnish, Turkish, Hungarian, and others use them too. I guess the darn fool's got to them. Long story short, I know...
Like, you can be okay with using a gender neutral pronoun such as they without agreeing with the non-binary idea.
Change can be scary, Ben, but it's going to be fine. Stop being
Stop
So
being
if you've made
a
it this far in the video, well...
Yeah, so this guy's great. He's going to be joining me next week on November 8th, right? I think it's a Sunday. It should be a Sunday. Yeah, it's a Sunday. So he's going to be joining me on Sunday 8th. Sunday 8th, we're going to be talking about the concept of property and the failures of meritocracy. That's going to be an interesting conversation to have with him. This guy's he's pretty cool. I like him a lot. He's been on my podcast. We talked about methods of promoting atheism. So he's pretty bright. It isn't contradiction your own logic. It is a duality. Get ready, the left. I think using they in all the necessary situations for a singular pronoun is easier said than done. I think people do it all the time and they just don't recognize it because they don't associate it with a political motivation. So they'll say, well, I just did it right now. So they'll say, instead of saying, so he or she will say, I said, so they'll say. It's pretty easy. It's just the fact that now, because it's become politicized, people are more, they don't want to do it anymore. Key debater Sargon of Akkad.
I look ridiculous in the webcam that I'm using.
Yeah, you do look ridiculous.
Damn right.
I heard him giving you a hard time because you were like dressed in sweats.
Listen, it was real cold today. I'm hiding my power level. All right.
No, we're
I'm practically naked right now, so.
That was awesome. Getting your camera centered up, Washington. I know we're live on your end, so.
Gotcha. It's fallacious.
Okay, so never mind.
That is not. Wait, do you think a fallacy means? You're an English liberal now, and for you to then turn around and argue against the plurality of economic evidence, which suggests that there are overall economic benefits to immigration, to fucking cry in front of me and make this emotive argument in favor of groups of people who are statistically helped more by immigration than others is ridiculous to me. I apologize if I get worked up over it. It's just the working class, and I don't use them as a cheap, cynical ploy to get by with policies.
You want their wages to go down.
Except they don't. So I actually care about the working class. And for that reason, really quickly, I have a quick question. Then I'm done. Adam, did you come into this discussion with intent to appear like a neutral moderator, or were you comfortable with enough bias from the beginning?
Bosh, you're interrupting far more than Sargon is. Okay, I'm just trying to let both of you speak. I came to this conversation saying at the very beginning that my ultimate goal was to make sure that you both had a chance to make. I want to hear your opinion, Bosh. I honestly do. But you keep interrupting Sargon more than Sargon is interrupting you. Sargon did just interrupt you, and I said, let you finish your point. Do you have a question for Sargon? Well, no, I'd like to respond to his point. Actually.
What point did I make that you're going to respond to? Tell me what the point that you're going to. Just so you don't ramble meaninglessly.
Why don't you shut up then?
Wait, what point? Wait, do you know? You just want to talk, don't you? You don't actually have a point to respond to. What point?
We're talking about immigration versus.
What point, Carl?
I can tell you when you shut up. Bosh, let's respond, okay? Please don't interrupt, and I won't have to interrupt you.
I'll ask him what point if he doesn't tell me what point he's responding to.
Bosh, I'm going to say something, and I don't care whether you like it or not. And if you don't feel,
I don't care whether you like it or not.
if you don't feel like I've responded, then afterwards, after I finish talking, you can ask whatever question you like.
Yeah,
Is
you
that
ask
fair
another
deal?
question. That's how it works. It's good. It's like a back and forth thing. Go ahead.
There's no question that mass immigration damages the economic prospects of working class people. And I'm sure that if it was...
Gosh, this is why...
There's not, mate. Look, I mean, just have...
He never gave me a point that he was responding to. I don't know what he's going on about. It sounds irrelevant.
But you're impugning me for not
You know
being
what subject it's
unbiased.
on.
You're the one that keeps
Oh,
interrupting.
no, what bothers me is that when I came here to discuss ideas and performatively
Yeah,
challenge-
Vosh. That's the thing that Vosh does. He interrupts so much because he's very emotional. Like look, I'll say this much: Vosh is legitimately smart. He's smart. He knows what he's talking about. He's done his research, and he's a good debater. But the problem is that he's very he's like very seventh grader when it comes to debating people. That's the way he is. He just didn't grow up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Vosh caused everyone. Yeah, I mean, Vosh caused the entire Republican Party and conservatives racist, so I'm not surprised by that. Render under Caesar. I'm working someone with they them pronouns. Oh, no kidding. That's interesting. Oh, I want to hear more about this actually. I worked with someone with they them pronouns before too, and it was interesting. And it can be challenging finding a way to say some things. It makes me wonder if that is just because I am so used to thinking in he she format. Yeah, so I worked with someone with they them pronouns as well, and because of that, so the person that I was working with was biologically female, and they refused to. I worked at a movie theater, and so what we had to do at this movie theater was we had to clean the restrooms. And obviously, if you're a male, you clean the male restroom. If you're a female, you clean the female restroom. But because she identified as non-binary, she refused to do either. And that was a huge problem for everybody working there because we started having a shortage of people who could clean the female restrooms because there just weren't that many people who could do it. And I remember people having arguments with her. I never had an argument with her about this. I was just very respectful. I didn't really care, right? I'll use what you want me to use, and I'll respect the way that you choose to identify as. But I remember this being a huge problem with it. And the thing with the whole non-binary issue is that the way that they choose to define it is in a way in which you can understand someone who says, well, you're just using gender as a synonym for personality. I get that argument because that's the way it comes across as. And so this is what Deborah So brings up in her book, The End of Gender, in which she says the definition of gender is changing. And the way that it was originally used as biologists in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s is very different than the way that it's being used now. Now it is being used in a way that is almost synonymous with personality. So it seems like it's not just a matter of us finding new information that is having us come to the conclusion that there are more than two genders. It's that now we are just redefining terms. Sounds kind of immature. Sex and gender are different. They are different. So sex is biological and gender is the way in which you identify with that biological. So gender would be masculinity versus femininity and how far along on the spectrum you are there. Did you feel like this coworker looking for attention rather than actually being a benefit to their mental health? I don't know. She made it. Oof. They made it their identity for sure, because they had pins on their shirt that basically said my pronouns are they them. It was an identity focused thing. That's not to say that it wasn't a benefit to their mental health or that they weren't being sincere. It was just there was an interesting amount of overlap between someone who would just be doing it for the sake of wanting to feel special and wanting it to be a part of their identity and wanting that to be highlighted over everything else, and somebody who is doing it just for attention. That there was an overlap between the way that she was doing they're doing it. Sorry, I don't mean to keep misgendering her. I'd rather us have a specific pronoun that is genderless and doesn't conflict with anything. My language has no word for gender. We use one word for both sex and gender. I mean, the argument that a lot of people in the English language would do is like, it was the same thing with us, but now the definitions are changing. Turkish, I think, has no gender pronouns, right? I like Caesar pronoun. Yeah, those are interesting. If you go on Letterboxd, actually, they let you choose like a bunch of freaking pronouns, which is interesting. I don't. Oh yeah, I have like 2 monitors or 2 laptops, so this one doesn't have me, so I can't show you the new pronoun names. I haven't come across anyone who requires pronouns, but I think I would just use their name and call it a day. Is this harder than I think it seems? Yeah, I mean, just use their name or just their pronouns if you're forced to do it. It's interesting. I mean, it's definitely an interesting topic, and it's one of those topics that, from an academic standpoint, I would love to engage in it, have a conversation about it, demonstrate some potential inconsistencies in their logic, and some some contradictions. But because it is so nuclear and it is so personal, and they associate it so much with their identity, it's almost impossible to do that, and it's a shame. Thoughts on Otherkin, Vincent? Yeah, that's stuff stupid. Otherkin is just like legitimately just silly. So even though, yeah, even though I'm totally sympathetic towards the idea of people who are non-binary, who want to use different pronouns, I'm sympathetic to that. I'll absolutely do whatever you want me to do with that, and I'll do this as well with Otherkin, right? I mean, I won't, in general, like whatever you want me to do, like I'll just do it for the sake out of courtesy. But if you ask me, do you think it's ridiculous? I'll be like, yeah, Otherkin is kind of ridiculous. Now I'm feeling guilty because I was responsible for creating web forms with pronouns. Really? I just included the normal male, female, they, and a fill in the blank option. That's interesting. I didn't know this. Otherkin is where I draw the line on. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Do you draw a line? So, like, how ridiculous does something have to get to the point where you say something? So, I remember watching, where was it actually? I think it was Steven Crowder, Two Genders video, in which Steven Crowder says, yeah, it was this video. So Steven Crowder says, well, would you say anything if they're, if someone came up to you and says they identify as like a raccoon or something, or a toaster or something like that, then wouldn't you say that is ridiculous? And people in the audience would be like, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with someone identifying that way? And so the argument basically was that, well, there has to be some line in which you say that's just ridiculous.
From the people who are trying to change my mind.
This video is like so hard to watch, by the way. It's so hard to watch. Thoughts on pedophilia and sexual orientation? Oof, I have some controversial views on that, man. Long story short, pedophilia is disgusting. It's terrible. We need to make sure that children are absolutely. But if you are a pedophile who does not act on it, that is a different story. Good show, Babylonian. I enjoyed. Keep the relaxed formats. We have enough polarization. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much, Guy Fox. I really appreciate that. I love this sort of stuff. At a point, I will not use a pronoun to be a part of sexual expression as a human. Yeah, but that topic of pedophilia and sexual orientation, some people go so free with that stuff. They'll go so far as to say that someone who identifies as a pedophile or who has sexual attraction towards children is the same thing as someone being gay. No, it's not. Some people go way like crazy with that stuff. It's insane. When I was in high school, I thought the helicopter was hilarious. Still do. Yeah, I mean that was a meme about this sort of stuff when it first came out.
Binary. So you have man, woman, and that's it. Those are the only 2 options. However, gender really is more of a spectrum. So it's non-binary. There are not just 2 options. Okay. You have man, woman, and then everything that doesn't fit into just man, woman is considered non-binary. That's an umbrella term, and that includes a lot of different categorizations.
So how many genders are there?
You can't put a number on the number of genders because everyone uses different words to classify themselves.
I would disagree. I'm not convinced that anyone can just use any classification for themselves for their gender, and certainly not that then we have to compel society to address them this way, right? I'm sure you can understand that the compelling of language is an issue.
So what gender do you think you are?
Well, I'm a male.
Okay, well, I think you're a woman.
No, legally I'm a male.
Oh,
it says on my driver's license I'm a male.
Okay, so that's your sex.
No, it's, yeah, I'm also a male.
That's your sex.
It says on my carriage certificate I'm a male. Gender. Some legal documentation say gender.
What if I say I don't believe you?
Doesn't matter.
Exactly, it doesn't matter if you don't believe me.
No, it doesn't matter because biologically.
What gender do you think I am?
I would assume you're female.
Yeah, so you're making assumptions.
Yes.
I identify as non-binary.
Hey, I don't respectfully. It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Now, let me ask you this: what would you say if I
matters what pronouns you use for me? It matters how I'm socialized in society. It matters my gender expression. It matters the way that I'm allowed to express myself. It matters what matters who I'm allowed to live with. It affects every aspect of my life. So you're saying
what pronouns should I use?
You should use they them pronouns. So use. saying that
And
you
what if I don't?
me-
What if I don't?
If you don't, I would consider that disrespectful, and that's actually an act of violence to misgender a trans
It's an act of
person.
violence.
That is an act of violence to intentionally misgender.
So here we come to the issue, and this is why I'm up here. You just said that's an act of violence. That means it's an actual offense. That means it's a crime. So you believe that
I
for
didn't
me,
say it's a crime. I said it's an act of
an
violence.
act of
There's a lot of
violence.
things that are not considered crimes that are acts of violence.
Okay, so you believe it's a non-aggressive act of violence.
I think that when you misgender someone, if you're to misgender a trans woman,
Yes.
trans women, especially trans women of color, are the most or have the highest rate of murder within the LGBT community, right? So if you were to intentionally misgender a trans woman, that could put her
Wait, murder? You mean suicide, right? Not murder, suicide.
most or have the highest rate of murder within the LGBT community, right? So if you were
Yeah, suicide. I think you're saying.
to intentionally misgender a trans woman, that could put her at risk of murder. You understand that? Because
Which is
people
true.
trans-
I don't understand.
I
I'm
think
sorry,
that really
go
does show
ahead.
that you're privileged in the situation. Then
Yes,
I think
believe we're both.
I think you're extremely privileged in the situation that you don't have to experience that, or that you don't have to worry about that, or consider that you don't feel like you need to respect people's pronouns.
I'm considering.
Yeah, like so far they're right? Yeah, he is privileged. Like I'm anti woke and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't recognize that privilege is a real thing.
I'm asking you questions.
Mhm.
You said these are the pronouns I need to use. I
Yeah.
said, what if I don't? So that's an act of violence.
Yeah, I would against me.
Okay, so
I
that's a
would
crime.
consider that
An
you.
act of violence against.
Oh wait, are they at MIT? No way. Is this MIT? Where are they?
So if you were to intentionally misgender a trans woman, that could put her at risk of murder. You understand that? Because people think because trans.
Oh wait, no, they did actually mean murder. If you misgender someone, that could put her at risk of murder? You mean suicide? Or are you calling it murder because what you are doing is causing them to commit suicide?
Thank you for putting on the fourth installment of Real Conversations. Changed my mind. For those of us, whole hour changed my mind today. My mind, regardless of the fact that we didn't change ours. So,
Yeah, sir.
Also.
Oh, it's not MIT. That's definitely not
stick around
MIT.
to, be reading by the Change My Mind Church and become a part of the Change My Mind. So,
Also.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely not MIT.
Can be wrong. Society was wrong about gay marriage. I think people are wrong saying that gay marriage, being gay is unnatural and being gay is a crime. Not society being wrong, but we adapt to modern times, and I think that we need to.
India, so that was a valid argument for convincing me why
Even
they
if
more.
this is an ancient practice, this is still going on.
Sure.
In other countries, this is still
But
going
you just said
on.
it's not fair use of other societal comparisons.
I'm
Because
saying it's not fair to
you're the one
compare
that
gender
did
to
it.
slavery.
No. I'm trying to get to the premise of the
Literally
argument.
what I
I'm trying to get to the premise.
said. You can't compare gender to
I'm trying to get to the premise of your.
The premise
I'm trying to get to as very respectful as possible. You just said this has been practiced in other societies for a long time.
Yeah.
My point is that's not an argument because there have been horrible things, maybe benign things, maybe semi-harmful things in other societies. We would both agree on that. So it's not a valid
Bring
argument.
slavery back to
No one's arguing.
Did they wait? Did they have an argument? Let me see.
Can be wrong. Society was wrong about gay marriage. I think people are wrong.
Re-explain what it is. Take any practice, okay? Take the practice of neck stretching, for example, which is not harmful, okay?
It is harmful, actually.
Okay, well, some people don't think it's harmful. They don't think it's harmful.
Okay.
Any practice that's relatively benign that we believe to be harmful that they don't believe to be harmful. The point is, just because another society at one point has practiced it doesn't make it correct. Can we agree on that?
That's an okay. So just because another society has done it does not mean it's correct.
I'm sorry. I think you're making really false comparisons.
No, I'm not.
I do. I think
Can we
you're making
agree?
false
Can we agree? Because listen, there are also many societies the other way, right, who only ever recognize two genders, two
Yeah,
sexes.
but that doesn't mean
That's
that
most.
other genders.
That's most. So you're implying that those societies were wrong.
I'm implying that they have their other societal standards.
Right.
Societal standards are based.
Ooh, so she's a hardcore cultural relativist then. Yikes. Or they, sorry. They use they them pronouns. So they're a hardcore cultural relativist then.
Off of a lot of things, it's very intersectional. What we decide to accept in society. So if you're
Oh,
going to
did you say
there are societal
intersectional?
standards. Societal standards are based off of a lot of things. It's very intersectional. What we decide to accept in society. So if you're going to say, well, because it's
So
making,
society can be
essentially
wrong.
making the same argument. Yeah, society can be wrong. Society was wrong about gay marriage. I think people are wrong. Gay marriage, being gay is unnatural, and being gay is a crime. Not society being wrong, but you know what? We adapt to modern times, and I think that we
But
need
you just
to.
compared it to ancient Egypt and India as though that was a valid argument for
Yeah,
convincing me why they
even
had
this
more.
is an ancient practice. This is still going on.
Sure.
In other countries, this is still
But you
going
just said
on.
it's not fair to use other societal comparisons.
I'm
Because
saying it's not fair to
you're the one
compare
that
gender
did
to
it.
slavery.
No. I'm trying to get to the
That's
premise of the
literally
argument. I'm
what I
trying to get to the
said. You
premise.
can't compare
I'm trying to get to the premise of your argument here. Okay?
The
I'm
premise
trying to get this as very respectful as possible. You just said this has been practiced in other societies for a long time.
Yeah.
My point is that's not an argument because there have been horrible things, maybe benign things, maybe semi-harmful things in other societies. We would both agree on that. So it's not a valid
Bring
argument.
slavery back.
No one's arguing to bring slavery back.
Exactly. So why are you?
Well, actually, of course, it still exists in other countries in the
Yeah.
Middle East.
So
Just countries that you've
like I
mentioned.
said, I don't think you're making a fair comparison. I
Yeah,
think
I
you're kind
think you're making a very fair
I think you're kind of just going on a tangent in order to try.
My point is it's not an argument.
It is an argument. I think it's an argument.
Okay, so I will use your
argument. Our Western standards are not necessarily the pinnacle of what we should be doing. Western societal standards do not mean that we all need to be following the same thing because.
Okay, that is not what he is saying. From what I remember from this video, he is not saying that because what he believes is Western, therefore it is true. It is just the fact that what he says that he believes is true, and it is just the fact that it is a Western idea. But he is not saying that because it is a Western idea, it is true. So that is incorrect what they are saying.
We're not all Western, and we don't all follow those beliefs. So if a Native American
Of course, you
person.
have the law. We have to follow the law.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the law is different. I think the law is different than a societal standard. So
How is the law different? It is the societal standard legally.
legally, yeah.
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 Stay within those parameters.
Okay, sure. So there's other countries that are considered Western that would recognize other gender.
Sure. Yeah, I know that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So why not?
So how many genders are there? If we're going to change this.
Yeah, again, so which basically means he's not saying that because it is Western, it is true. They just said, yeah, there are Western societies that recognize that there are more than two genders. Yeah, that has nothing to do with what he's saying, because he's not saying that because an idea is Western, that therefore it is true.
So we are sitting here talking about gender.
Yeah, so if I were,
So
as a
this is a
person,
modern theory in the United States, right? Sex and gender are interchangeable. No, I'm going to finish one sentence here, okay? I appreciate that. You've been very privileged in speaking over me. I'm not convinced, right? The job here is to sit down and change my mind. I think it's very productive for you to do with other people on campus. I don't think this is a way to change somebody's mind.
I don't think you want your mind changed.
I've had my mind changed. Well, instead of assuming that, how about actively trying to change it? So my point is, you mentioned that
Yeah, don't say that. If you don't, okay, if you didn't believe that he didn't want his mind changed, why are you there?
it's non-binary.
Well, actually, okay, I could probably just say just maybe to change the opinions of the audience. That's actually true.
But you haven't given me a number of genders and how we restructure society. You've merely pointed out that it's an act of violence to use an improper
Because they believe that gender is a spectrum. That does, then therefore there wouldn't be a specific number of genders. It could be an infinite number of genders.
pronouns. Yeah, I would have. You just talked about societal standards.
I'm not saying I agree with them. That's just what their logic is leading towards, and there seems to be just them not recognizing each other's logic.
If the societal standard is using the wrong pronoun is an act of violence against somebody, I think that's an incredibly dangerous societal standard, and it's one that nobody can uphold consistently. Would not agree?
Right, I said, I mean, intentionally using wrong pronouns. You intentionally use the wrong pronouns because you don't agree with them or you don't recognize their identity to be real. That's an act of violence. So that's purposely disrespecting someone. No one wants to be purposely disrespected.
I believe I
purposely
understand.
called you the wrong name all the time. How would you feel?
I would feel very disrespected if you, for example, came in bombastically and other people interrupting. I feel very disrespected.
Yeah, so it's intentionally using the wrong pronouns. So if you ask someone the pronouns or they would correct you and say, no, sorry, these are my correct pronouns, and you continue to disrespect them, you have to understand how much trans person at risk.
Yeah.
So does that person go to get arrested for using the wrong pronoun or it's an
No,
act of violence?
act of violence. I don't, and I know that you like to say that an act of violence means that it's legally a crime.
It is.
That's not how I'm defining an act of violence.
It doesn't matter how you define act of violence.
Okay,
This is-
well,
we have to
you don't
legal-
have to
Yeah,
define it.
that's another problem, is that people are defining terms differently. And so when they're saying acts of violence, that's putting an idea into Steven Crowder's head that is not consistent with what they believe is to be true. So this is why we need to define our terms. I know John Rawls has said consistently that defining terms really just dilutes the strength of the argument. I don't agree with that at all. I think you really do need to define the terms, because these two people are arguing completely different things, arguing the differences in what violence entails, and it is causing for this conversation to be completely unproductive.
No matter how the law defines the act of violence.
I don't think it does.
You don't think it matters how the law defines
I know,
act of
I'm
violence.
saying that an act of violence does not have to mean that it's a crime. I'm saying that
An
it's
act of violence against another person, unwilling participant, is in fact a crime legally. There's no way around that.
Okay,
Can we agree on that?
so how about
Can we agree on that? Let's find some common ground. Can we agree an act of violence against somebody else is a crime and no one should commit it?
I'm saying no one should commit it. I'm not going to say that it's necessarily illegal. Like
Okay, but it is illegal.
Criminal defense.
I'll allow you to assume what you want, but it is
Can I
illegal.
finish your thought then?
I would like you, but I think this is a very central point to the argument, because this is one of the first things that you said.
Yeah.
And we haven't found common ground. We don't agree on that. I do find that the idea of
Yeah, no, sorry, can I hear what you have to say?
no, I agree. Well, you can sit down afterwards and we'll have a conversation. No, listen, I would like to have a conversation with one person, and then you can all line up and have a one-on-one conversation. But I do. I don't consent. So I'll have a one-on-one conversation. I'm not shoving a microphone in your face. I'm simply holding it. But you just said this is not equal step. I paid for this microphone. This is my microphone.
She just misgendered her.
So would you like to have her take your place?
I'd like to finish my thought that you haven't let me finish yet, actually.
Okay. Do we have a time code? Do we have a time code? I believe it's been about over 30 minutes. But go ahead.
My thought, because it actually has been over 3 minutes, it's been less than 3 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
So my thought is that you talk about legal ramifications, how many genders are there? Okay, so when you have countries that recognize third genders or non-binary gender options, you know how they put that on their form? Non-binary, other.
Yeah. Right.
How is that complicated?
Well, can I say how it's problematic?
How is that problematic?
It's problematic because you have people who've been sued, arrested, or put out of business for unknowingly using the improper pronouns, and that's the point that I'm making.
Okay, that's not what they are saying. They're not saying that because you... Oof. All right, come on, Crowder. You can do better than that. They are not saying that because you misgender someone, that therefore you should be put in jail. You that, Crowder. That is not what they are saying. They're just making an argument from common courtesy or from personal identification. They have not put forward legislative ramification for this yet. You are putting that in their heads.
So you're referring to a societal standard. What can be filled out on a form? That's your premise. I'm saying there's been a societal standard, one that's biological for millennia, which we've now changed, and we're punishing people who don't agree. So you may think it's disrespectful for someone to not use the pronouns that you demand. I think it's equally disrespectful to demand that somebody live in a spectrum that hasn't been agreed to, and they don't even understand.
What businesses have been put out? Who's been put out of business not using the right
Well,
pronouns?
in the UK, this happens all the time in Canada. You know,
Can
Bill
you name a
C-16
specific business?
Yeah, Bill C-16 in Canada is really important. For example, we have comedians and we put forth human rights tribunals.
Yeah, I'm sure you can point towards instances, and those instances are problematic. Yeah, but that's not what this person is saying.
So Canada recognizes the third gender, though.
Yeah, Canada does.
Legally recognizes the third gender. So the law is their legal standard. That's their societal standard, right? So the people who aren't agreeing with that aren't agreeing with their societal standard.
Right, but it's a societal standard that flies in the face of biology.
But
And my
it's a
issue is
societal standard that's legal.
so people should be put before human rights tribunals for using the improper. Gender is biology. It wasn't until 1948. You know that, right?
No, I don't agree with you on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, but when did gender theory start?
I don't know the year gender theory started. I'm sorry, I'm not a human encyclopedia.
Okay, it was
Well,
1948. Simone de Beauvoir, Butler.
yes, so it was around the 1950s, 1960s. Yes. Postmodernism.
When we started, there were still only two genders. Gender was a grammatical issue. Usually it's referred to as a noun. I'm French Canadian, so in French we have masculine and feminine.
Right.
It really is a very new concept and one that is not any kind of biological precedent to say that there are unlimited genders. That's the
Yes, that is true. So the concept of more than two genders did not originate in biology. It originated in the humanities. That is true.
issue. And so when you are jailing people and punishing people for not adhering to an entirely new system that you yourself that you haven't defined, I do think that that's a problem. I think saying that somebody using improper pronouns is an act of violence against someone. I just disagree. I think it's a real problem. And I would hate
It's not
to
disrespectful?
I think it's disrespectful to use pronouns.
I think
They're
it's-
being
so
invented by the day.
If I told, they're not being invented by the day. I don't know where you're getting that information.
How many genders are there? How many
I
pronouns
didn't
are there?
say, I can't define the number of genders or the number of pronouns.
Exactly,
I'm
because
sorry.
anyone
I
can
don't
determine them. They're being invented by the day.
Yeah.
New genders each day.
So if I told you that I identified as, if I want you to use just my name, not my pronouns.
Sure.
Does that make you uncomfortable?
No.
Right. That wasn't hard, was it?
No, it wasn't hard.
Yeah, exactly. That's what people are asking you to do.
No.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we have a TA, we just had her on the program yesterday, on Monday, who got in trouble for using the name because a student demanded they use masculine pronouns even though she was a girl. And he said, listen, I'm not comfortable with that. I will use her
With
name.
masculine pronouns, I believe that
Okay,
person
again, that has nothing to do with the argument that this person is presenting, though.
be using masculine pronouns and you just misgendered them.
Yeah, you use the name.
You said her.
He used the
You
name.
said her.
Yes, yeah, I did, because she's a female.
That's not how that works. I think
That is how that works.
we established
That is how that works.
You agreed with me previously, but we established previously gender and sex are totally different.
No, I don't agree.
How do you know that person's a female?
I know that because of biology, and here's the thing, gender
Did you
theory.
look at them? Did you happen to just examine them and decide that person's a female because of what you saw? Is there external
Can
genitalia?
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you genuinely feel that I've been interrupting you more than me? You keep saying you're unable to finish the thought. I haven't finished the phrase.
I think you just finished the phrase.
Okay, do you want to be? I think you've been interrupting me quite a bit, and you just assume the premise I don't
Yeah, seriously, don't do that. Like, you're just trying to score points.
agree with. No, that's my point. I'm not able to make is gender theory, as you're describing it, is very new. It started with Simone de Beauvoir in 1948, and what you're just Judith Butler. The first time there was this idea that there were more than two genders was John Money. I'm sure you're familiar with that case. That's very new. And there's no biological backing behind this theory. It is based on emotive response. So I don't agree that gender and sex are separate. Legal documentation sometimes considers separate. We're trying to adapt that now. I don't think we should adapt the law considering something an act of violence because someone uses a pronoun which is biologically correct because you consider an act of violence against you.
What's a biological pronoun?
He, her, his, her.
How do we determine that?
Whether male or female.
Yeah, but how do we determine that? What if we decided that she, her, hers was what we were going to use for males?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We right now.
Yeah, right
we have
now.
male and female.
So that's
His
a
or her.
current standard, right?
No, it's a biological standard.
The words that we use are based off of like what we as a society use, though.
Not
Right?
entirely.
Yeah,
They're
we
reflection.
just based,
Okay.
I would say.
Amphibian.
What about amphibians?
Is that societally based?
An amphibian is a you know what? I'm not a science major, but I will say an amphibian is a like scientific classification of an
Reptile.
animal. Yeah, the classification of an animal species.
Bush, tree.
Yeah, okay.
Are these
So,
societal?
wait.
The point is that language is a reflection of standards that we have in society. Are doctors sexist?
I think some doctors are sexist.
Are doctors transphobic if they refer to their patients who have a penis and they come in for prostate exam as a male? Is that doctor hate speaking? Is that an act
Yeah,
of
I
aggression?
think if that doctor misgenders, then yeah, they are being transphobic.
Okay. Well, my mind has not changed, but I think I'm trying to find some common ground. I'm sorry that we didn't.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Yeah.
Thank you, medicine.
I'm not gonna take it.
I figured.
Ooh. Did not shake his hand.
Thurman, nice to meet you, Thurman. Hey, I'm doing well, Thurman. How are you? Steven, nice to meet you, Thurman. Sorry, yeah. By the way, if you like to hold the microphone, you can. She never asked.
This is what I don't like about these change my mind though. He's not having conversations with people who know these topics in depthly, who are experts or quote unquote experts from the humanities department. I mean, he's having conversations with like college students. Like it's his job to know about this stuff, to analyze the conversation and analyze the arguments that are presented towards him. That's his job. He has a YouTube channel dedicated towards this with billions of subscribers. This guy doesn't. He's just some normal college student. So of course it's going to look like he's destroying him in a debate. Like that's the way it's framed.
No. Okay. Here's the thing. It was actually by accident because I'm using he and her for my entire life. It's not meant as an act of disrespect. And see the problem in claiming that's an act of violence against somebody. I'm sure you can establish intent with every person you encounter. Thurman, how are you, sir?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like there have been people who've gotten into a fight at the dinner table, and now we all have to put a good face on. But Thurman, I'm glad to have you here. I'm open to having my mind changed.
So I'll just break this down for you. Basically,
yeah.
So I think
I'll just break this down for you.
your last exchange. Basically, you got to kind of establish like sex and gender, which technically are different. And sex usually is boiled down to more of reproductive potentials, and gender is like a lifestyle and everything like that.
More societal.
Yeah. I really don't know what to make of the new like gender standards now, in terms of like people just living whatever lifestyle they want. So if let's say someone that appears to be female lives a male's lifestyle, I don't understand where we train having new classifications and everything like that. But technically speaking, there are sexuality spectrum and gender spectrum, right? So you have your typical healthy male, your XY, you have your typical healthy female, XX. So you have something like Klinefelter's, right? Now this isn't
It's based more on gamete type than anything else.
I think there's variations of common X.
Can I say one question there?
Yeah.
Why do you say healthy XXXY?
Healthy meaning basically standard, non-deviant, what people would consider normal.
Okay.
So if you're Klinefelter, right? Technically speaking, that would be non-binary, and that's not a lifestyle thing. That actually is a biological thing.
Sure.
So
We just have people intersex.
Yeah. So you'll have like, and that's not to say they're hermaphrodites because we don't have that in our species, but you'll have the two X's and a Y of underdeveloped male sex machinery.
It's okay. It's not. We don't need to censor anything. Right. And there's some animals like they call it micropenis. It's an insult. It's a natural term. You're referring to. Or large clitoris. These are medical conditions.
They're discussing having large breasts, smaller, male reproductive organs, high-pitched voices,
Gynemastica.
Yeah. So in that case,
and I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah. So in that case, yes, there's no debate. Technically are both sex-wise. Gender, I have no idea how to choose that. It really kind of depends on your how severe cases.
Sure. can I just couple things? I'm going to follow some questions. We talked about earlier with intersex. You know, it affects such a small percent of the population. And most of these people actually have very identifiable, sexes. Generally speaking, it's not just right in the middle. Because we talk about like the previous conditions you mentioned, men with these conditions or female with these conditions. That's often the rule with intersex. Not always, right? But as I said, we teach people have 2 feet. Now, some people don't have 2 feet. In anatomy class, we teach people have 10 toes. We teach people have 1 heart. We teach people have 1 head. All of these things have exceptions to the rules. All these medical aspects. So the point is, we don't use extreme exceptions to define our rules. As a matter of fact, that's how we consider those exceptions. So biologically, sex, male and female, this is how it's been taught. I think we all read that sex has been taught that way. And then you've talked about gender. So you're not entirely sure. So I would like to hear your thoughts, your opinions on gender.
You see this video of the black guy school? Yeah, this guy's fine. He's not like a douchebag or anything. I don't mind this. There was an interesting one. Where was it? Was it socialism? Steven Crowder, Socialism, where there was a socialist that destroyed Crowder. Just
I didn't know where I'm going. What is this? All right. Hey, pass that on Twitter. Thank you.
it was the funniest thing ever.
I think that, wait times are not better. Objectively, higher mortality rates are not better. Objectively, your chances of dying from some kind of a serious illness or not.
Where was it?
I guess I'm saying, right, like, the first amendment. They anti their claims. In this case, no one really actually had any changes, but asked for their solution. It's exactly where their line is. Have some positive. This is something very.
Where was he? Where is he?
Right,
It was this one for sure, right? Oh wait, pro gun. Oh yeah. Here we go. Here we go.
And if you look at countries, you said.
This guy like knew his stuff.
This guy seems to be really eager. Or this guy in the orange. All right. Okay. Well, let's bring up the guy in the orange. Sorry. I know. Listen, we didn't plan on this. We have no idea. We usually show up and do it, and people want us to get out. What's your name, sir? Alex. Alex, are you live? Did you go here? No, I got to high school. Alex, we can't do that. Hold on a second. If I do this with the high school students, next thing's gonna happen is they're gonna Laura Ingram me and say that I mocked someone who's not of age. Are you 18? Your parents have to give you permission. I can't actually film you. I appreciate it, Alex. I'm sorry. This guy, come on, let's bring this guy up here. I'm so sorry. This is the process. We don't want to break the.
This guy. This guy knew his stuff on socialism.
Crowd like this. All right, what is your name, sir? Yusuf. Nice to meet you, Stephen. So I believe, let me explain my position. I believe that socialism is.
Oh, for sure, man.
And have us here.
So history's shittiest disciple. I hope so too, man. But yeah, no worries, man. Thank you for stopping by. This was great. I love having you here. You're fantastic. We need to get you back on the show. So message me, DM me in the Twitters, and we'll get you back on the show.
Resources in case someone wants to look at them afterward, but I won't use it. It's not fair for me to use them. So I believe socialism is evil. You disagree. I would love to hear you change my mind. Okay, well, what's your position on minimum wage? Well, hold on a second. Is this your change my mind? I want to make sure. Yes, I want to get started. Okay, my position on minimum wage. Yeah. You know what?
So you think there shouldn't be any minimum wage at all?
Yeah, zero. Not saying.
Okay. Are you against illegal immigration and legal immigration from poor third world countries at the scale that we've been having it so far?
Am I against illegal immigration? The answer. What was that? We're going to do everything we can. Like I said, this is last minute because we're not necessarily friends here. They don't consider us friendly. So like I said, we appreciate you supporting us. Of course, we're against illegal immigration. But again, socialism. The idea of socialism. Let's do this before we go on. Okay. This is something. This is important. This is something we often see from both the right and the left. So we start with the premise. Where I made a statement. Socialism is evil. You moved on to questions on different topics. So I'd like to first, before we move on, if it's okay, let's define socialism. Okay. How do you define socialism? So I know that we're agreeing on that premise.
Socialism is a system in which the state redistributes wealth from what would be under a pure capitalist system.
Okay, I think we agree on that. Okay, and then I think it's important to don't go. This is just a natural discussion. I might be wrong here. And what do you think I mean by evil, or what do we both agree the definition of evil is?
Harmful to society.
Not necessarily society. I believe morally reprehensible. It's immoral. Okay, so as socialism.
Reprehensible. What does that even mean? Again, so because Steven Crowder is religious, so he believes it's morally reprehensible. This guy's probably pretty secular, so he has a different definition of evil. So Steven Crowder immediately is already trying to get him to play by his rules when he says not just harmful to society, morally reprehensible, different rules than what this guy believes.
Is basically collective and governmental control of the distribution or means of distribution or production. And when I say evil, I believe that is immoral. So can we both agree with that? No, but we agree that's what I'm saying. That's my position. Okay, so what part of my position?
Oh, I mean, yeah, of course you're saying that.
Well, I'm trying to convince you that your own objective, if you're conservative, not be achieved under capitalism. Okay. And so I'll give you an example of that. Yeah. You have a lot of Republicans like Paul Ryan. Well, hold on. You cannot deny that he is a big capitalist, and he has lots of capitalist donors that would like nothing more than to increase their profits. I think you can agree with that. And people like that have been opposing immigration reform for decades because they believe that mass immigration will lower the wages to increase their profits.
No, I would say a lot of what you just said is correct. Okay. And that many conservative Republicans believe that mass immigration from countries like, say, Mexico, from quote-unquote third world countries, could lower the wages. Yeah, I do believe that a lot of Republicans believe that. Guys, so I agree with you on that.
So if you impose a minimum wage, you're not going to have immigration coming in because the companies that are taking these illegal immigrants and taking these low-wage immigrants, if they had to pay them $15 an hour, we wouldn't have mass immigration like we're having right now.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that premise. So let me kind of go, because first off, before I would like to take that, hold it. What example would we point to before we go on? Because I know a lot of times we disagree. Full socialist country.
Well, there are different kinds of socialism. I think you're thinking of the Soviet Union and Venezuela when you say these are unsuccessful countries. But you also have Sweden, you have Norway, you have Finland, you have Denmark, you have Germany. Sure. These are countries that have robust economies and high levels of socialization.
Right. What's their minimum wage?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
What if I told you that they have a minimum wage?
There are plenty of countries that have high minimum wage. Australia has high minimum wage.
I know, but we didn't talk about them. We talked about successful socialist economies. Now, first off, I think this is important because we need to find the premise. First off, we're away from the premise. To the moral argument, I believe socialism is immoral. The redistribution of something they have not earned, I believe is fundamentally immoral. I believe that's that. Hold on a second. Then we'll go. So now we've gone from that to the pragmatic. And no, I'm not an anarchist. And then you brought up some successful examples in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, I believe. First off, these aren't socialist countries. Now, the reason we point to countries like, say, Venezuela, Cuba, the same reason Bernie Sanders did for decades is because they're true examples of socialism. The Danish Prime Minister said, Bernie, stop referring to us as a socialist economy. We're a free market economy. They don't have a minimum wage, as we know it. They only allow collective bargaining between unions, higher skilled unions, and those who are employers. So these are countries, by the way, if you look at their immigration laws, the only way to make it work is for those countries. I mean, I guess I have to ask, it sounds almost as though you're making an argument. Are you a nationalist?
I would say I'm an economic nationalist.
You are an economic nationalist. Okay, so you part ways with a lot of probably your more left-leaning brethren.
I never said I was liberal.
Okay, so you're a conservative socialist. They're hard to So no minimum wage there. Like, it doesn't change the idea. Let's get the fundamental premise. Yeah. Before we move on to the pragmatic, I'd be happy to. But I believe that socialism, the ism that we both agree upon, the collective means, season of distribution, production, is immoral.
I mean, the argument is absurd because if you say that it's immoral, then you also have to say that government funding of police is immoral, government funding of the military is immoral. Anything the government does is immoral, and that's ridiculous. But you have to have some state that's going to socialize certain things. That's the question. Not do we have socialization, it's how much.
Sure. I would disagree with that. Now, would you know where I disagree with that? Guess what I'm going to say.
I assume you're going to try to argue that government funding of the military and police is not socialism.
Why would I say that?
Well, because if you don't argue that, then you're going to have to give some ground on socialism.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. If I have to concede that police force, as you're saying, police force,
Okay,
military,
smart.
roads is socialism, the same as healthcare, education, and I'm assuming that's why you're referring to Denmark and Sweden. They're not socialist economies. They have more of a social safety net. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, they're social democracies.
They're market economies with higher emphasis on social safety net. That's how they describe
That's what a social democracy is.
it. So okay, we agree on the term. Let's go with social democracy. I just want to make sure we don't get confused like democratic social.
Yeah. Anyways, interesting video. I'm gonna stop the video now. Live stream now, because we just hit the 3-hour mark. So I'm going on Sunday. So today is officially Saturday for me, actually. But we're gonna be doing one on Sunday. So the idea is that we're gonna be doing these live streams every Sunday. The only reason why I decided to do it today was because I was bored, and I don't know, I just wanted to. So anyways, I'm going to be doing another one on just in a few days, tomorrow, technically tomorrow for me. So I will see you guys then. Thank you everyone for joining me on this fun journey in which we went through who did we go through? We went through Tim Pool, we went Steven Crowder, we went through Alex Jones, Coleman Hughes. We watched a bunch of videos today. We had a lot of fun. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Anyways, everyone, take care. Yeah, thank you, Darko. Have a good night, everyone, and I will see you all on Sunday. I better see you all on Sunday, all right? Because again, I'm live streaming again on Sunday. If I don't see you here on Sunday, I'm going to be very mad. I'm going to be very incredibly mad with you guys and disappointed. So please be here on Sunday. Have a good night.